We'll call the meeting to order for Wicomico County Council Legislative Session 2025-05 from March 4th, 2025. Those that would like to stand and join us in the Lord's Prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, please do.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Entertain a motion from council to approve the consent agenda. So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Consent agenda passes. This time we will have a proclamation to recognize the 60th anniversary. That's a lot. For Shore Up Incorporated, we have Dr. Tyrone Chase, who's the executive director, and I believe Ms. Julie Peters, who's the chief communications officer, here with us tonight. That's wonderful. And it's going to be presented by Shani Shields. What we'll do, if you go to the end here where Shani is, and she'll read the proclamation, and then we'll give you the opportunity to speak at the podium if you wish. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah. All the way around.
Stand on, I have spasms. That's okay. Thank you. Okay. It gives me great pleasure to give this proclamation to Shore Up Incorporated. They have done great work over the years, and it's 60 years. So I'm going to read this proclamation. Whereas Shore Up Incorporated was founded in 1965 in response to Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty and the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964, with the goal of fighting poverty by empowering the poor and utilizing community organizations to provide grassroots assistance backed by funding from the state and federal governments. And whereas Shore Up Incorporated is a community action agency defined in the 1964 Act as a program that provides progress toward the elimination of poverty or causes of poverty through developing employment opportunities, improving human performance, motivation, and productivity, or bettering the conditions under which people live, learn, and work. And whereas Shore Up Incorporated provides early childhood education programs along with energy assistance, adult daycare, foster grandparents, family support programs, job placement opportunities, skills training, financial education, housing counseling, and much more. Now, therefore, the Wicomico County Council congratulates Shore Up Incorporated on their 60th year anniversary. Thank you, Shore Up, for serving our community by providing vital resources, education support, and advocacy to those in need. Congratulations,
Right.
child. Here. Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Chase or Ms. Peters, if you'd like to say a word at the podium, feel free.
You're welcome.
You didn't tell me how much time I have to speak.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Don't tell anybody in the room, but you can take your time, okay?
All right. Look, I just want to thank the council for this proclamation. Thank you for seeing the good work we do, but we couldn't do it all by ourselves. We stood on some shoulders of some giants who were before me as an executive director, and as well as the council who provided us with the leadership, the guidance, and even some funding in order for us to do what we do in the community for those individuals we serve, as well as those who we serve by proxy. So I thank you all. I appreciate it, and you won't be seeing us. This is not the last time you'll see us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next proclamation we have is a proclamation to recognize the month of March as Endometriosis Awareness Month. And we have Shannon Hannawald, the ambassador for the Endometriosis Association.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I think we were here in the same place last year.
Of course we were. That's a good thing.
Good evening, everybody. It's my honor to read this proclamation for Endometriosis Awareness Month. Whereas endometriosis is an inflammatory condition in which the tissue that normally lines the uterus grows outside of the uterus and can be found on the ovaries, fallopian tubes, and intestines. And whereas it is estimated that 1 in 10 women have endometriosis, which can cause severe pain, infertility, and dysmenorrhea. And whereas the Endometriosis Association began Endometriosis Awareness Month in 1993 to increase awareness and education about the painful disorder plaguing an estimated 175 million women across the globe. Now therefore, the Wicomico County Council hereby proclaims March 2025 as Endometriosis Awareness Month in Wicomico County, done this 4th day of March 2025 and signed by all members of the County Council.
Thank you.
Please.
Hi, again, my name's Shannon Hannawald, and I am the founder of Endo Warriors of the Eastern Shore, and I'm also an ambassador for the Endometriosis Association. I am also a wife, a mother, a best friend, an aunt, daughter, a granddaughter. And I started this organization 5 years ago because I wanted to make sure that none of my nieces or any other young women go through what I went through. I'm going to kind of shorten my story because if not, we'd be here all day because it's like a 20-year story. So when I was 15, I started having really bad menstrual cramps, and the doctors kept doing ultrasounds and CAT scans and MRIs, and there wasn't anything showing up on them. So they told my parents that I was lying and that I wanted to get out of school. So I basically would pass out from the pain. I would throw up from the pain. I would lay on the floor from the pain. I can't tell you the amount of doctors I went to. When I was 17 years old, I attempted to take my own life because I was at the point where nobody was listening to me and I didn't really see another way out. And I was tired of feeling the way that I felt. And I'm not really sure what changed, but at that point, after I went to the hospital and they got all of the drugs out of my system, and I decided that I was going to fight. And I was going to find out what was wrong with me so that nobody else would ever get to the point where they would feel like they didn't have a choice except to take their life, because that really was all that I thought that was my life, because nobody would listen to me. No doctors knew what was wrong with me. After 5 years, I finally found a doctor that would listen to me, and I walked in and I told him my symptoms. Endometriosis is a thickening of the lining of the uterus, and basically what happens is the tissue forms outside of the uterus. It grows all in the pelvic cavity, and it can basically forge all of your stuff together. As soon as I walked in and I told him my symptoms, he said, "You have endometriosis." And I said, "What is that? And why has nobody else said anything about this?" And so I had my first surgery, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis. I have had 18 surgeries since then. Endometriosis causes massive menstrual cramps, pain with intercourse, pain with bowel movements and urination, and it causes infertility. There are many women who are unable to have children because by the time they are diagnosed, the endometriosis has taken over their entire reproductive system. So I am grateful I was able to have 2 children. The second one I had to go through IVF to be able to conceive. And before we had him, we lost a baby. And so again, that was another thing to add to my list that endometriosis had taken for me. I have a lot of nieces by blood and by love, and I refuse to ever let them go through what I went through. And it's very important to me to talk about this and educate the community, because there are so many doctors that don't know anything about it. I've had doctors come up to me in the emergency room and ask me questions, and I don't understand how 1 in 10 women can have endometriosis, but the doctors don't know what it is. And one of them told me that they had 30 minutes of education on it in medical school, which is absolutely ridiculous, because again, if 1 in 10 women are affected, why are you only getting 30 minutes of education in medical school? So we need to make sure that even though this is an uncomfortable topic to talk about, people don't want to talk about their menstrual cycles or anything that has to do with that, but if that's what I have to do to protect my nieces and other girls in the community, then that's what I will continue to do. Endometriosis also has a lot of autoimmune disorders that are associated with it. It has multiple sclerosis, Crohn's, Addison's disease, rheumatoid arthritis. The reason I bring that up is I was diagnosed with Crohn's about a year ago. I spent the past 14 months in the hospital for about 4 or 5 days each month for the Crohn's disease. And I had a couple doctors that took me back to that really dark place because they didn't want to listen to me, because on the outside I look like a normal 41-year-old woman. And they basically told me that endometriosis is not painful and it is not an emergency, and they didn't know why I was there. And I said some probably not very nice things, but I felt that they needed to be said, because I knew to advocate for myself, but if it had been one of my nieces laying in that bed, they don't know that. And I don't want anyone to ever feel like their only option out of this is to take their own life. So I think that it's important that we continue to discuss this, we continue to raise awareness about this, that the doctors become educated about it, and that you advocate for yourself, because if you don't advocate for yourself, no one else is going to advocate for you. 4 years ago, I started Go Yellow Go Yellow for Endo Day. This year, it is this Friday, March 7th. And what I'm asking is everyone to wear yellow, and you can post it on my Facebook page, which is Endo Warriors of the Eastern Shore. Or you can go to my website, you can email it to me, and I will post it on our page. I want to turn as much of the United States yellow as I possibly can. So when people ask, you can answer what endometriosis is. It should be as well known as if somebody said that you have strep throat. There should not be any questions about what endometriosis is. So if you have any daughters or nieces or granddaughters or anyone like that and they are having issues, please advocate for them, and please make sure if the doctor they have is not listening, then go find another doctor. And I would just like to thank you all for supporting me for the 5th year in a row. It means more than I could possibly explain, and it shows the women in our community that they are not alone and that they have someone on their side. So I just wanted to say thank you. I'm leaving. Say that I'm leaving after. Yeah, you're good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Benson.
Legislative Bill 2025-03.
Sorry, Mr. Summers.
Before we begin, I just want to announce that there's been one change to tonight's agenda, and that is the work session for Delmarva Power. That has been removed. Unfortunately, the representative that was scheduled to speak this evening is sick.
Thank you, Ms. Sirleaf. Mr. Benson.
We're here for a public hearing on Legislative Bill 2025-03, which is an act to amend Chapter 59 of the Wicomico County Code, titled Personnel Rules, Article 5, titled Other Rules, Section 5923, titled Payment of Unauthorized Salary, Penalties, Removal, and Liability, by adding a subsection C. The purpose of this act, or bill, is to recognize that the Office of the State's Attorney, the Office of the Sheriff, and the Circuit Court for Wicomico County are constitutionally created offices in the state of Maryland, and that the normal rules for county personnel departments do not apply to those three entities, which are state-created entities. And again, we're here tonight for a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. At this time, we open the floor for public hearing on legislative bill number 2025-03. If you have any comments you'd like to make in reference to this specific legislation, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. That concludes the public hearing on legislative bill 2025-03. Entertain a motion from council to approve legislative bill 2025-03.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? I know we have Mr. Andrew Illuminati here if we need any. Seeing none, we'll do this by roll call. All those in favor of legislative bill 2025-03, say aye. We'll begin with Councilman Holloway.
Aye.
Councilman Hastings.
Aye.
Councilman Wynn.
Aye.
Councilwoman Shields.
Aye.
Councilman Baker.
Aye.
Vice President Merritt.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Legislative bill number 2025-03 passes unanimously. Mr. Benson.
Second item, Your Honor. Your Honor.
That sounds, that's a good ring to it.
The lawyer
All right.
comes out and
That's not bad.
we're introducing legislative bill number 2025-04, which is an act to amend Chapter 186 of the Wicomico County Code titled Right to Farm to include the right to conduct a commercial seafood operation, establish new membership positions on the Right to Farm and Commercial Seafood Operation Reconciliation Committee, and expand the notification requirement to include the right to conduct commercial seafood operations. This bill was brought forward initially by Councilman Wynn. This bill, initially as proposed, would have created a seafood committee in the vein of the Agricultural Right to Farm Act. And looking at the state law that authorizes the Right to Farm Act, it also contemplates rights relating to commercial seafood operations. Suggestion was made that we use the existing committee and amend the existing Right to Farm legislation to include commercial seafood operations, thereby having one committee that would handle both. My understanding is that this was presented to the Farm Bureau, and the Farm Bureau thought it was a good idea. I would just add that under Maryland law, when you do something with regard to commercial seafood operations, you have to submit that legislation to the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. This bill was submitted to the director of the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. They have reviewed it, and they've indicated they have no objection to this bill being adopted. So this is here tonight for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Entertain a motion from council to introduce legislative bill number 2025-04. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the introduction of bill number 2025-04, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The introduction of legislative bill 2025-04 passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Benson. Good evening, Mrs. Hurley.
Good evening, Mr. President, council members, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the agenda are 3 public hearings. Each of the public hearings have been posted on the county's website and published in the local newspaper. The first public hearing is on resolution number 31-2025. This is to amend the fiscal year 2025 capital budget to authorize the county executive to accept the State of Maryland Capital Projects grant funding of $900,000 to update the video board at the Arthur W. Purdue Stadium. The Board of Public Works has approved a grant award in the amount of $900,000 to update the video board. This request is to amend the fiscal year 25 capital budget to include the specific grant funding and to authorize the county executive to sign the grant agreement. And we have Katie Rouse here, Deputy Director of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism, if you have any questions. And again, this is a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. This time we open the floor for public hearing on resolution number 31-2025. If you have any comments that you'd like to make in reference to this specific resolution, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. That concludes the public hearing on Resolution 31, 2025. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 31, 2025.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I've got a question.
Yes, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Hello, Katie.
Hello.
Big guy's out of town?
Yes. Katie Rouse, Deputy Director, Recreation Parks and Tourism.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Thanks for being here.
Yep.
I guess my question, is this the total cost of this video board at the stadium?
So this is going to be, we're basically going to take this money to improve it, make it better than it is. We're just going to be able to do what we can do with the 900. We haven't decided yet if it's going to be an additional scoreboard or it's just going to be improvements to the current scoreboard. It's going to depend on how far we can get with the money.
I guess my concern is, have you signed any contracts yet to have anything?
We don't
any
have the funding
estimate?
yet, so
Any estimates or?
No,
You haven't got
not
any
at
estimates?
not at this time, no.
How did you come up with the number 900,000 if you don't have any estimates?
The number was put in by Delegate Anderton for a bond bill, so that's one of the reasons it wasn't in the budget. It was kind of a last-minute thing, so now we're looking at, I think they estimated what they thought it would cost at the time. Now we're looking at, we've had preliminary discussions as far as how far it could get us, the $900,000, and that's why I'm saying that I don't know that it would be a full additional scoreboard, or if we would only be able to do improvements to the current scoreboard. So it's going to depend on that. But we don't have any quotes or estimates yet because we don't have the funding yet.
I guess the other concern is, we've all been reading about what the state is doing. It's funding-wise. They pull the money for the Fruitland Elementary School or Fruitland Primary School. And I just don't want, the county to be on the hook for something, that we're going to do and thinking we're getting 900,000 from the state and we're not.
Yeah, totally understandable. So the plan would be that if we were not to get the money or if they pulled the funding, then we wouldn't do any improvements. And then at that point, the only thing the county would be on the hook for is when the current scoreboard reaches the end of its useful life, or if it were to stop working down the road, we would estimate that would be years from now, not anytime soon. Then we would be responsible to make sure there's a scoreboard there. But if the money were to be pulled, we just would not do the improvements at this point. So there is a functioning scoreboard there.
So I still don't understand it. Delegate Anderton, who isn't there anymore, put this in. I don't know where the 900,000 came from. Just off the top of his head or from somewhere?
Potentially, and I think that was the idea was to add in another scoreboard. That's what he was estimating that he would do, but I don't know that we're going to have the money to add another scoreboard. So it's going to be some kind of improvement to what's out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All those in favor of Resolution 31, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion is carried, 6-1. Chair votes aye. Motion is carried, 6-1. Resolution 31, 2025 passes. You want to
Stay for
stay?
the
Yeah,
next
sure. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Next is a public hearing on resolution number 32-2025. This is to amend the fiscal year 2025 capital budget to authorize the county executive to accept the state of Maryland capital projects grant funding of $100,000 for the Phase 1 development of the Mason-Dixon project. The fiscal year 25 capital budget currently has $1.1 million of state grant funding budgeted for the Mason-Dixon project. The Board of Public Works, however, recently approved the project at $1.2 million. So this request is to amend the fiscal year 25 capital budget to include the additional grant funding of $100,000 and to authorize the county executive to sign the grant agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. At this time, we open the floor for a public hearing on resolution number 32, 2025. If you have any comments you'd like to make in reference to this specific resolution, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. That concludes the public hearing on resolution 32-2025. Entertain a motion from council to approve resolution 32, 2025.
So move.
Second? Second. Any discussion? Yes, Josh.
I just want to see if you could give the public a 30-second rundown of what the Phase 1 development of the complex, what that looks like.
Yeah, so Phase 1 is just going to be upgrading mostly, we're focusing on the safety issues there. So people that have been there know that a lot of people park across the street there by the railroad tracks, and then they're walking across. So it'd be new parking, additional parking area that would be on the park property instead of having to cross over the street. That's the big thing there. And then some field improvements, some additional courts out there, playground improvements, things like that. So.
Questions? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of, sorry, I lost my place. All those in favor of Resolution 32-2025, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Resolution 32-2025 passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is a public hearing on resolution number 33-2025. This is amending the fiscal year 2025 position control document, Exhibit E, to reflect an increase in salary and grade for position number 100119, GIS Specialist, for the Department of Planning, Zoning, and Community Development, and to amend the pay and classification plan for the grade increase from M35 to M36. The GIS specialist has been assigned a complex data analysis project that will be ongoing for several years, so a request has been submitted to reclassify the position from pay grade M35 to M36 to be budgeted at $55,340.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. At this time, we open the floor for public hearing on resolution number 33-2025. If you have anything you'd like to say, if you have any concerns about this resolution, come to the podium, state your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. Mr. Atkins, where have you been?
Good evening, sir. Just sitting in the back observing. James Atkins, Wicomico County. I'm going to go ahead and address this one and the next one at the same time, since they're both correlated with each other. There are two positions that are being requested to be changed. My first problem is that we're 3 months away from a budget. This is when this stuff should be done, at the budget. When we finalize, I say we, when the council finalized the 2025 budget, within a month after that, people were coming here asking to change the control document and give wage increases after the budget had just been passed. We're looking at one position, 119, that in 2023, the budgeted salary was $40,300. We're now looking at $55,340. That's a 37% pay increase in less than 3 years. Has anybody here had a 37% pay increase? The second position, 100132, isn't quite as bad. They started out at $45,100 in 23, and this proposal takes them to $58,537. That's only a 30% increase. I understand through reading this that these employees have taken on additional responsibilities and have received additional training. But this 37 and 30% increase is a lot and needs to be addressed. I would also venture to guess that if this was passed, that in June, when you do the budget for 2026, that there'll be a pay increase in there for these people, along with every other county employee, which they get. Part of the justification for this is that there are approximately $120,000 in salary savings during fiscal year 25 in this department. However, in searching through the control document, I only see one vacancy listed for that department, and that vacancy is at $58,000. There's a lot going on in this county right now. Board of Education, the Verizon building, the Civic Center. We need to be very conscious of the money we're spending. I am not saying that these people are not deserving of raises. I just think it's being presented at the wrong time, and I think the amount of the raises over a 3-year period is a little exorbitant compared to the rest of the county employees who work outside, do manual labor, and some employees who sit inside in climate-controlled offices don't get such large raises. So let's keep an eye on this as a council, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Any other public comments? That concludes public comments for Resolution 33-2025. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 33, 2025. Second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Gene?
Yes. Ms. Taylor, would you?
Right, John.
Good evening. If you could just,
Good evening.
and Ms. Olin, if you want to come to the table, that's fine. Just let's, for the public record, if you could just state your name and your position. Great, thank you.
So I have a cold, so I barely have a voice. So I'll try to speak well.
Hamilton Finance Director.
Tracy Taylor, Planning Director.
You have a question? Or,
I don't have a question, I have discussion.
okay. The floor is open.
Okay. I can't support this for reasons stated, just like Mr. Atkins said. We're a few months away from budget. This shouldn't be coming to us now. Secondly, the increase, I mean, people don't get raises like this, 30%, 35%. I don't agree with it. It's wrong timing, and this should be something we're addressing a few months from now.
What would the, I guess, a response to that as far as why at this exact moment where it couldn't wait a couple months?
Sure. So first of all, as you know, I'm a new Planning Director. I think I just passed my first 100 days. One of the things that I was charged with when I was first hired was to do an evaluation of the office, which I did, job duties. Some of those job duties have to be shuffled among different people. We had 5 vacancies when I joined the staff. We're now down to 1 vacancy. That's the reason why we have the salary savings that's mentioned in the request. One of the things that was determined when we started looking at equity among all the staff and the job duties was that I'll only deal with the position that this hearing is on right now. The GIS specialist was the lowest paid position in our department for a planning position. The position in previous years has been vacated and we've rehired. So salaries that were in previous fiscal years were based on the qualifications and the job responsibilities of previous employees. This particular employee has their bachelor's and their master's and was the lowest paid person within the department. In addition to that, Wicomico County has had the largest priority funding area, comment area in the state of Maryland. It's had that since the late 1990s. What that translates to is money for the county. If you're in a comment area, you're ineligible for state funds. So one of the things that we started working on almost immediately was to start to remove these comment areas so that Wicomico County is eligible for state funding. That is the project that's been assigned to this individual, and it is a massive project. None of this individual's other job duties have been removed from her. This is in addition to what she is already doing, and we have already submitted removal of comment areas for 3 of your public schools, which enables them to have funding. We just recently submitted a request for well over 300 properties for the Salisbury Infill Water and Sewer Project to apply for MDE SRF funds. If we hadn't done that, you would not be eligible for those funds. So there is a direct financial benefit to Wicomico County for having this individual work on this project, and it will be multiple years because we have thousands and thousands of properties that have to be evaluated and submitted to the state for review.
Josh.
I just wanted to make note of having worked in the conservation field in the last 15 years. This salary is about 10 grand lower than the market rate.
Absolutely.
So this is a ridiculously low salary. And I think we should know that for work that gets done and what I see as every day in job postings.
I think I recognize the concerns about the exorbitant increase, but I think we're overlooking the fact of how, similar to what Josh is saying, how exorbitantly low this salary has been for the position, and you're saying that they have a master's degree as well.
Johns Hopkins. And I should have mentioned, and pardon me for failing to do so, the reason why the timing of this is off is because I submitted this months ago, but because of the process we have to go through with the consultant evaluating the position and ranking it, I had to wait for well over 2.5 months for that to come back. I put in for this not very long after I started employment here, but I can't come to you until the consultant ranks it, and we only got that ranking just a few weeks ago. So that's why this person is already doing this work.
I guess the question might be, Pam, and this could be for you, as when we get to the new budget, we're hoping, because we have a few of these, we have about 3 of these where there's going to be salary decisions made tonight, and I think the general consensus of the council is we would not like to see that if that were rewarded or approved tonight, that there would not be another 5% in addition to that with the new fiscal year 26 budget.
So the typical process for Wicomico County has been that if you are hired in the month of approximately June, you're basically told that whatever raise happens in July, you're not getting. You're not. So would we be coming back to you for a further bump to these positions beyond what the standard bump is for employees? No. But we do not have a set in stone policy, but the policy that I, as finance director, have primarily followed, that if people are hired, exclusive of those who are on a pay scale that gets adjusted in July, that's contractually obligated.
Right.
But those that are on just the standard pay scales for the county, if they're hired in June, and we have the funds, because again, 2020-09 allows us only to do a specific dollar amount, so this position was hired at the dollar amount of the previous employee that was put in the budget. We did not come when this person was hired to reevaluate their salary, even though they had additional qualifications. But we are coming to you now showing you that they have additional qualifications, as well as we have added job duties that we have never had this position have. So can I absolutely say that this position would not be one that we would ask for whatever the standard raise is? No. If I was coming to you in June for a change, yes. I would blatantly state here and say that, but we have never held people back from a July raise except for those who are primarily hired in June.
Considering the fact that it's somewhat of an annual raise, I would hope that the people that were benefiting were here at least a year, 6 months at the worst, but I could not see the justification for increasing the salary 5% or whatever it might be in 4 months from now. Again,
This individual has been here over a year, approximately a year, I want to say a year and 4 or 5 months. But also, last council meeting, as you know, we were here for position control document changes for one existing employee and one new employee, and they were not prohibited, or it wasn't expressly stated that they would be ineligible for an increase come July 1.
We are, may I state one more thing, please? We are looking at, and again, budget's in the early phases, we are looking at 2 different pieces of a raise, kind of like we did this past year, where it would be COLA, where the whole scale moves, and kind of performance-based for the other portion. Could we consider that the only piece they would get would be the COLA? Because I would not like to not give somebody that the scale moved, then they actually come down on the scale. If we don't move the scale, we would consider that. But the problem is if we move the scale up, then everybody else would move up, and this person, just because we gave them a raise now, means that they actually fall down, and the compression happens because the scale moved and they didn't.
Correct.
So I could consider, and we could discuss the concept of those on this only getting the COLA portion. I would advocate for that. I could advocate for that concept, but I can't advocate for them not getting anything if we're giving a COLA.
So I'm going to address even the next resolution we have. I know the issues we're having with properties that are out of compliance with our zoning laws in Wicomico County, and we've only had one code enforcement officer for a long time, and that's the next resolution. And understand the need. What would be the ramifications if we put this off until we did the budget completely?
There's always a potential for losing employees if, as Josh stated, this first one is the lowest paid in the department, and second off, if somebody came to them with a better offer between now and July, we have no ability to state that it will happen in July.
I really want to support both of these, but I understand the concern, and then you're talking about this much of a raise, and then in a couple, 3 months, another raise.
And there's no guarantee at this moment that there is, I apologize, I interrupted you. There's no guarantee that there will, budget is not finalized.
I understand that, but there always is, so.
I've lived through times here in Wicomico County that there wasn't, so no, there
Anyway.
isn't always.
Yeah, well, anyway.
This council is well aware of the federal government cuts, the state cuts. We're getting ready to go into budget season. I'm not saying these people aren't qualified or have the qualifications or so much not deserving of the raise. But when we get this close to budget, we need to see the budget, work the budget out. I mean, this happens time and time again. A month before the budget, 3 months before the budget. We need to get to the budget when we need to make decisions like this. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Cannon, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this until the budget.
Well, you can only make a motion to postpone it until the next meeting. Either if you vote against it, then it would obviously come up at the next budget. But if you're going to table it, would have to be brought back to by the next meeting.
There's a difference between tabling and postponing, though.
Well, there's no real motion to postpone in perpetuity. It's either a motion to table or you vote no. Any other questions, comments?
I'd like to make one comment.
Yes, Shani.
I look at this salary, and it seems to be high to some people. But if you want to get good quality people and don't want to lose them, to me, I look at this salary, and if she has a master's degree and she's qualified, this is why we lose young people today, because we don't pay them enough. And I have 2 granddaughters, and we have the cost of living here it's like Baltimore. And I have a granddaughter that pays $2,100 a month in a neighborhood. We have people here paying $2,100 in a neighborhood here in Salisbury. So many people that graduate from college, UMES, Warwick, Salisbury University, they leave the community because the salaries are better in other parts of the county, even in Delaware. They might move to Dover or something. I'm going to support these positions because, to me, if somebody went and got their master's degree or doctorate degree and they're very qualified in GIS, I would support them getting this. I understand about the budget and the cuts, but in order to keep a person here, we need to pay them. That's how I feel, you know.
I agree with what Shani's saying, and I have 100% confidence in Ms. Taylor and how she's running her department and understanding and recognizing what true compensation is for the individuals she's working with. I also think it's necessary to take into consideration the fact that this isn't something that's all of a sudden come up in March. That it is an issue that she probably brought to the table 2 months earlier, which to me is a big difference in just bringing it up at the last minute. So I think we need to take that into consideration. Plus, I think that for the job that they're doing, this salary is certainly commensurate with their responsibilities, 100%. But I do think, so that we don't have to continue with these discussions, that if you're looking at anything in the fourth quarter of increases, it needs to be discussed strongly as to what issues, what policy we're going to establish as a county as to when that person comes in, and compression and all that aside, seriously, you need to say, okay, when you're suggesting even an increase to these employees, okay, here's what it is, but you will not get an increase in July, just know that. And if you have to come here now in March and pay it 5% more, because you know it's going to be increased 5% or even 2% in July, bake it in. But in the fourth quarter, I think we do need to draw some type of policies, have some policies in place that restrict this type of last minute increases.
I will take this under advisement. The issue is also, so you know, March 31st is the end of the third quarter, so we still actually have the whole month of March, so.
Being the fact that there's possibility of a 5% increase in the budget or COLA, can we reduce these amounts by that much to bring them back? So,
Again, because that number has not been set, I would not recommend that, because we have not yet set the number for next year's budget. This is based on what the current market has and our current pay scale as it currently stands to where these people should be. It doesn't really reflect what our pay scale will be as of July 1.
I also want to mention that for this first position in particular, they went from a M35 at the minimum, so that's a baseline starting out. The recommendation is go to the M36 at low mid, not even at mid. When the consultant's determination came back, it came back on both of these positions that they should be making well into the 60s to mid 60s. I didn't ask for anything near that. So the county's consultant came back that both of these jobs, based off the PDQ, should be well over 60,000.
Mr. President.
Questions? Yes.
Pam, you mentioned that the fiscal year 26 budget may have a performance component to it. It was my understanding that the pay and classification plan was based on length of service.
Actually, I did misstate that. It is length of service, so, but it's more of, so in the last, basically since raises have started again after the recession, basically what we have provided to employees is that the pay scale has grown. And thus, with the pay scale continuing to grow, nobody ever has moved kind of to the right in the longevity aspects of the regular pay scale. So when I was hired 4 years ago into this position, I'm still sitting at whatever column I was in as 4 years ago, because all I've done is had the pay scale raised. Last year we did do 4% COLA, 1% grade. So basically 1% for how that you've been here. We are looking at, and I did misstate, we are looking at doing that concept again as to what that split is. I can't answer that question at this moment.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Any other questions? All those in favor of Resolution 33-2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion's carried. Resolution 33-2025 passes by a 6-1 vote.
Okay, next for your consideration is Resolution Number 34-2025. This is amending the fiscal year 2025 position control document, Exhibit E, to reflect an increase in salary for position number 100132, Environmental Planner for the Department of Planning, Zoning, and Community Development.
And a motion from council to approve Resolution 34-2025.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution 34-2025 passes by a 6-1 vote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much. And my employees, thank you very much.
Hope you feel better.
Thanks. The next item for business is the veto of Legislative Bill 2025-02, an act to amend Chapter 37 titled Ethics Law the charter provision for council's reconsideration, which is Section 411D. Legislative Bill 2025-02 is an act to amend Chapter 37 of the Wicomico County Code titled Ethics Law to require special legal counsel for the Ethics Commission to avoid a conflict of interest or an appearance of a conflict of interest. Council held a work session on the proposed bill on December the 3rd, 2024. The bill was then sent to the State Ethics Commission for review and approval. The bill was then introduced by the County Council on January the 21st, 2025. Council then held a public hearing and adopted the bill on February the 18th. The legislation was presented to the county executive on February the 19th, for which she has 21 days to return the bill to the county council for her approval or veto. The bill was returned to the council office on February the 20th with the executive's veto that is in the brief book. Charter Section 411D states, upon veto, the county executive shall provide in writing a statement of the reasons for the veto. The veto message shall be entered in the Journal of the County Council, and then not later at its next legislative session day, the county council may reconsider the bill. If upon reconsideration, at least 5 members of the county council vote in the affirmative, the bill shall be law. Mr. President, with your permission, I'll enter the veto message in the minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hurley.
And a copy of the bill as adopted on February the 18th is in the briefing material for your review.
Very much. Entertain a motion from council to reconsider legislative bill number 2025-02.
So move.
Second. Second. Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Yes, Bob.
Can I just make 2 points?
Yes, sir.
In the executive's message, she made 2 points. First was that the Ethics Commission already possesses the authority to hire a special legal counsel. But what I would point out, just so the council would remember, is that the council became aware that there was an ethics complaint made in the summer or early fall of last year involving somebody in the executive branch. And while the Ethics Commission may have the authority to do it, the reality was they didn't do it, and they relied on the county attorney to do that. And the second thing is that she indicates that mandating special legal counsel in all instances this bill proposes would create an unnecessary financial burden. I would simply point out that this special counsel would be appointed by the executive. It would be approved by the county council, and the assumption is that the county executive would propose to pay them the same amount or less than the county attorney is being paid, so it should not cost any additional financial burden to the county.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Any discussion from the council? All those in favor of the reconsideration for legislative bill number 2025-02, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The reconsideration of legislative bill 2025-02 passes unanimously. Entertain a motion from council to approve legislative bill 2025-02 as originally adopted.
So move.
Second. Any discussion? Any comments, Mr. Benson?
No, sir.
All those in favor of legislative bill, will this require a roll call, Mrs. Hurley? Yes. All those in favor of legislative bill number 2025-02, say aye. That would be Mr. Holloway.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. Legislative bill number 2025-02 as originally adopted has been approved unanimously by the county council.
Okay, next is the submission of Mustafa Kilcarslin as Director of Public Works. The submission's by Mr. Bunky Luffman, Director of Administration.
Good evening, Bunky Luffman, Director of Administration, and I know you'll be meeting with Mr. Kilcarson later in closed session, but he just wanted to say hi and be up here while I was doing the formal submission. So I'm here to formally submit Mustafa Kilcarson as a nominee for our Director of Public Works. He has 25 years experience in the private sector along with the PE, which our code calls for. And this position's been open, I believe, 4 or maybe 5 years. So we're really excited, and I hope for your confirmation of him, when you vote on it. So.
Thank you, Mr. Luffman. Any comments? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your consideration is Resolution Number 35-2025. This is accepting the donation of approximately 12 AED station accessories through the Delmarva Regional Healthcare Mutual Aid Group for the Department of Emergency Services.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 35-2025.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Mr. Cropper?
Good evening. I come up, but I guess I didn't need to come up.
You're going to be okay. Have a seat.
Okay, Lorenzo Cropper, Emergency Services Director.
Public doesn't know exactly what's going on here, so if you don't mind, that'd be excellent.
Approximately a year ago, we started a public access AED program. We have at present 11 AEDs and cabinets in a lot of the public entities, Billie Jean Jackson, Mason-Dixon, Pirates Wharf, Harmonville, Willard's Little League. It's a plethora of places. It's 11 places total, so I can't just recall them all by memory. And this is an opportunity to try to put about 12 more out into the general public. So that's why I'm here this evening.
And if you don't think this is good work, I've witnessed, a friend of mine was saved by one of these, and we gave an award to a gentleman not long ago with the Rotary Club for the same thing, where one of these devices saved a life. So it's very valuable, and we're very appreciative. Any comments or questions?
I'd like to know, for the public, everybody use initials. What is AED?
An automatic electric defibrillator.
Okay.
Oh, I had to think about that one myself. Because if we just say AED,
Yeah, but some people don't,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor of Resolution 35, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
I've got a question. In case someone else wants to donate some of these, about what do they cost a piece?
Those cabinets are running approximately $1,800 a piece.
$1,800?
Yes.
So how many more could you use? I mean, you don't want one on every street corner, no doubt.
Not necessarily on every street corner, but I would tell you that right now, if you sign up for Pulse Point or something like that, if they're in the event that there is a cardiac arrest in the area, professional responders get that notification immediately, and they're paying that AED that's closest by that location. So I can't tell you how many we need. I would never say no.
You don't need any until you need one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I would never say no that we don't need it.
So if an organization wanted to donate one or two, you would be glad
Yes.
to take those, okay?
Withdrawals permission, yes.
Maybe somebody's watching out there in TV land.
Yes.
See this.
Yeah.
But just to repeat what Mrs. Hurley said, really, these were donated, so the public is aware, by Delmarva Regional Healthcare Mutual Aid Group, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we thank them very much for that donation, very much. Thank you, Mr. Cropper.
Sure. Thank you.
Enjoy it.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hurley. This time, we open the floor for public comments. If you have any comments that you'd like to make, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county residence, and your concerns. Please try not to be too repetitive of what someone may have already said before you, and keep in mind, we do have a 3-minute time limit. We do that so that everyone can leave and get out of here at a respectable hour safely. Thank you.
Joe Schiaffino, Wicomico County. I just want to thank council for supporting independent counsel for the Ethics Commission. When I heard this issue was on the agenda, I did some research, and Salisbury City Council has the same conflict. I looked up Worcester County, I looked up Somerset County, I looked up Montgomery County. They all have a similar conflict, so I stopped researching at that point. I'm like, something's going on here. Among other things, the public loses trust in the process when we have a conflict like that. And I think it puts the particular solicitor in an untenable position. I mean, if there's an ethics complaint against the council member or the mayor, they may put in a position where they have to vote against their own interest. These people hired me, and I'm going to recommend that this complaint be approved. So I think it's a good thing. I think the state, somehow, it needs to be addressed. I was very surprised how widespread it is. And again, I just want to thank you for doing the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. Stagino.
Good evening. My name is Monica. I'm going to show my shirt. Good evening. Many people are going to come up and speak about the biorefinery, so I'm not going to go into detail with that, but I do want to make a comment that I invite the council to just mosey on over to that property next door just to see what it looks like, what the citizens are talking about, and also condemn the staff of the property owner for being very threatening in language to people who were not on their property, and that just happened today. So we were just talking about that, and with the planning and zoning, about the low costs and the wages that, and that big leap that would have to be taken. I want to bring to the council's attention what that leap will look like when the county council finally approves our schools from getting the funding that they deserve. We are currently at a budget that is from 15 years ago. And we're talking about who can survive off of whatever you got paid 15 years ago. Anybody, anyone? And now we are the lowest per pupil in the entire state of Maryland. We're behind Somerset and everybody else. So that right there, I really want us to really think about, when we're talking about all these budgets and everything, just really talk about our investment in the future of the quality of education, and talking about drawing people to this area, and even for the citizens that are here, and giving these teachers, listen, I'm be honest. I mean, I stopped teaching because now I'm doing NAACP. I just can't do it all, just too much. And I miss it. But we need to celebrate every teacher who still wants to be a teacher, for the little bit of money, for the little bit of help and support that they're getting, and provide them with what they need, because we want them to stay. We want the kids to get what they need. The last thing that I want to bring up is about San Domingo, and this will be very quick. So I talked about San Domingo, asked for lights on the basketball court. I did it when Parks and Rec were here. Councilman Baker asked them for a reply. What are you going to do about it? All of this sort of thing. They finally got back. It's been like 2 months, maybe 3 months. I'm not sure. Got back, and this is the response from Stephen Miller. Our commission is not in favor of field or court lights at neighborhood parks like this, and I concur. What the heck does that mean? If the citizens are asking because their kids want to be off in general, but want to be on these courts, and they're asking just for lights. When I even said that Mako, I met several individuals that had options for solar, and some of them could be through grant funding, or we can just do a big fundraiser for them to get this. But what was offered instead, or pushed or prioritized, were soccer goals and security lights. That's what he's given. Soccer goals and security lights. Nobody asked for that at that time. This has been since 2019. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they asked for these lights on the court, and then you to say without the reason that we're not in favor of field or court lights at neighborhood parks like this. What does that mean? So we demand an explanation. And the citizens of San Domingo chose not to come here because they know that the council cannot necessarily do anything, but they're planning to go directly to Parks and Rec. But they wanted me to make sure that I let you know what they're thinking.
I think it's Brooks.
Mike Goldberg, Wicomico. Wanted to first thank y'all for overriding the county executive's veto on the ethics bill. You know, I find it very interesting that apparently the county executive had no knowledge that the cost would be the same, whether or not the county attorney represents the Ethics Commission or an independent counsel. Is it plausible that she did not know that? Of course it's not. So what are the real motivations? In my opinion, the real motivations are to avoid transparency so that a bias is interjected into the system. I mean, what if the county executive were accused of an ethics violation, or a senior manager, or a director? Well, obviously, the county attorney, if representing the Ethics Commission, is going to be motivated to make recommendations in favor of the executive, whatever the executive wants, because otherwise the county executive has the sole authority to terminate the county attorney. So it just doesn't seem to be a plausible explanation. We have a situation where the fox is guarding the hen house, and this has to change. I'm glad y'all changed it, but let's really think about what were the real motivations there. In my opinion, what was stated in in the county executive's February 19th letter informing the county council of the veto, had to do with it was going to cost too much. Is it truly plausible that that's what she believed? No. We know what the motivations were. So let's just be acutely aware of what the reality is. That's all I have. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
Rodney Brown, Wicomico County. I live on Atkins Road, biorefinery. I told you I'd be back. I know you guys remember me. There's a couple of things that I really have problems with. I got a problem with this grant that was given to this biorefinery. I'd just like to know where the oversight was. I mean, $7.76 million, whether he got all that or not, we could give that to our school teachers. This guy has done something completely off the charts. And as far as I look at it, I think he very well knew what he was doing. He's tried to do it twice, right? And there's no consequences. So if you've done it once and he failed, why wouldn't he be held accountable a second time? So what I'm saying is it's just gone way too far. So the grant, and I think I asked this before, evidently there's nobody in Wicomico County that actually thought that this grant was going to give $7.76 million to different biorefineries. So that tells me that there's more coming. So why wouldn't we say, you guys are here to make laws, why wouldn't we say, okay, this is stop it. Let's figure something out so you guys don't hear from us. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just gone way, way too far. I don't want to be here. I really don't. And to be honest with you, these neighbors, I haven't met some of them, but I'm glad I have. I mean, it's just amazing to me that our tax dollars are paying for something like this. Give it to our teachers, give it to our children. Give it to the nurses. It's just, to be honest with you, I'm disappointed. I really am. And I don't know who's in charge of it, but I think accountability goes a long way. I'm retired. I'm 56 years old, and performance goes a long way. So all these raises, if these people deserve these raises, right, I think performance goes a long way. Not everybody should be getting a raise. Performance goes a long way. But anyway, accountability means a lot. And this guy is not being held accountable, or he wouldn't have done it the second time. So give the money to our teachers. And he needs to give the money back. And the building needs to be tore down, because my neighbor, that is an eyesore. So I just hope accountability is coming. I don't want to be here no more. I'm going to come on the 27th, and I hope I'm able to speak. And I hope the right decision is made, because if the right decision ain't made, it's not going to be good. And everybody in this room has every right to be upset. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Just a point of order and point of clarification for the public. The monies, the millions that Mr. Brown is referencing was a grant from the state of Maryland. It was not a grant from Wicomico County. But we do, I'm not, excuse me, I'm not, what I'm saying is that it's important for the public to recognize what government body issued those funds. We still agree with Mr. Brown that accountability is important, but just so you realize where it lies. Thank you.
Good evening. Joe Venoso, Wicomico County. Just want to talk about two things, if I may. First is regarding, obviously, what several council members have brought up. As we go to budget season, we're going to be looking at probably one of the most challenging budgets in recent memory. The Federal Reserve of Atlanta literally announced yesterday that they're expecting a 1.5% economic retraction in this quarter and perhaps a 2% next quarter. Now, in simple terms, that means recession, and we're going to feel the brunt of that regardless of what state we're in. Given the state challenges and the federal cuts and all the chaos there, we really need to think about, again, what we're spending our money on. And so with that, I just encourage that if the council, if the executive's office is going to come every, again, month or week prior to when the budget is actually due with these requests, that it's clear and that we actually know what's being baked into the actual number. Because as Councilman Baker said, you know, we can't operate in the dark. Regarding that, just one other point regarding issues of wasted tax money and lack of ethics. If you recall, about almost 2 years ago, the executive hired Mr. Matthew Leitzel for a position under very legally dubious circumstances. It's been confirmed to me by several people up in Annapolis who work for other delegates that he resigned last week. Now that's a salary position of more than $100,000, and that was hired in a very ethically dubious way. So if the executive decides to throw more money away at a position, which in my opinion is part of a bloated bureaucracy that doesn't matter, let's make sure that she does it the right legal way and that we do our due diligence as council members to make sure that doesn't happen again. Lastly, speaking of ethics, Councilman Nguyen, I am blown away that you actually voted to override the veto. It's not Christmas, but it's a Christmas miracle. Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Hi, my name is Laura Leopre. I'm from Wicomico County. If you don't mind, I'd like to just pass these out for you.
Thank you. Give them to me, I'll pass them out for you.
Thank you, Mr. Benson.
Okay, I came here and I did my homework. So I wanted you to be well informed of what's going on. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We all are matching here. It's just the small amount of us right now, but it's affecting way more people than the people in this room. There's key points, and I'm not going to go through everything because we only got 3 minutes on the clock. But I want to say that Mr. Kathuria, who is the person who is trying to get a biorefinery, let me rephrase that. It's a gasification plant. So what he's doing is he's taking chicken litter and other various products, and he's burning them at a high amount and creating biochar and creating pollutants in the air. Not to mention, I'm sure the smell, 24/7 operation, trucks rolling in and out. So I just wanted to, let you know that. Also, he had a failed project in Willards. The Chesnicks, that's the 2 emails you have there. They had emailed and complained about various things that he left on the property. He left the property a mess. So now he's here in Wicomico County, and I can only say what the future holds. I'm not a Swami, but if he caused a problem for the Chesnucks, I don't see how he cannot cause a problem for us. Now, the gasification plants, it sounds great on paper, green energy. They make it sound really nice, but there are negative impacts on the people and the environment. Now, the last page is just a small, it's teeny tiny. Please forgive me, my computer, I don't have a computer and my printer was on the fritz. But paleo-sensitive area. Yes, it is a paleo-sensitive area. That's how our zone was ag residential. And I believe the city actually benefits from some of these aquifers. So when you're sending pollutants out into the air, eventually they come down. I mean, they come down in the forms of phosphorus. We have very high phosphorus in our fields already. So that seeps into the ground. And where does that go?
Time is running out.
Yes. But thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you for the handout.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is David James, and I'm a Wicomico County resident. I'm actually up here to talk about a couple things. All right, and first one is I know it's a state thing. President Cannon, I did try to call you about this. I know you're a busy man, but the intersection at Route 50 and Old Railroad in Hebron, there's a lot of accidents, and I deal with a lot with the west side of the county, and people over there are really concerned. Again, I know this is a state issue, and I know there has been money allotted, but nobody knows where that's at right now. So I was just asking the council maybe talk to state and find out what's the time frame, because in the meantime, there's trucks flipping, there's people that are in harm's way because of this problem. That was first thing. All right, the second thing was working with the west side of the county. Cove needs to be cleaned up. All right, and they're trying to get, they've actually are working, Joe Lappin and the West Side Task Force are doing a phenomenal job. Thank you, Councilman Nguyen, for working with them. They're trying to get it cleaned up, but they need some help. They need some help from the county. I'm just encouraging maybe council people to maybe come down there and listen to Joe and them and see what we can do to help out. There are some organizations that I'm affiliated with that I'm going to encourage to get involved with this, because again, this affects everyone. The last thing I want to address is the future of the health department building. I guess the plan is for them to still move into the old Verizon building. With that in mind, we still got families, and I say families, under the bridge. We still got families on the railroad tracks. Sorry, I get a little emotional because I work with the shelters, I work with the homeless. They're everywhere. I mean, there was 0-degree temperatures. We have that building, and we have the SunTrust building that's boarded up. Question is, what are we going to do for them? I know some of them don't vote. Maybe if they can get some help and get back on their feet, they will vote. So I'm just asking that we really consider the homeless when we do something with that building. And if we decide not to do something with that building, shame on us for not considering the homeless. All right, that's all I have. By the way, Councilwoman Shields, you're looking great.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you, Mr. James.
No problem.
Good evening, council members. My name is Rhonda Tomko, Wicomico County. I live on Log Cabin Road, and I'm here to talk about the biorefinery project. I first dealt with the county and the planning committee 2 years ago when my family applied for an exception to the single household rule so that we could finish our garage into an in-law suite for my aging in-laws. While considering our construction project, we were strongly encouraged by our builder to follow the proper permit process, which meant we needed to apply for a variance. To obtain such a multi-unit exception, we were strongly encouraged by Mr. Meadows to acquire and submit letters of support from our neighbors. We were required to attest to the Planning and Zoning Committee that we would not cause harm, damage, or inconvenience to our neighbors with our project. And we were required to further upgrade our septic system because we were adding another kitchen to our property. The septic job alone was $25,000. In full compliance with the county's Department of Health regulations, we then needed to have new septic drawings, new water tests, and pay an additional permit fee. I speak about all this to convey my confusion about how a biorefinery project could have progressed to this level under the noses of the Health Department, the Planning and Zoning Committee, the Department of Environmental Protection. And I'm further confused about how our county officials could even consider bringing this kind of industrial project to a residential agricultural zone. As a resident who added a kitchen sink, I had to spend tens of thousands of dollars to adhere to ordinances, ask for exceptions, pass a multitude of inspections, and construct a septic mound so high that I cannot see over it. All so that my household's additional water usage from an in-law suite's kitchenette would properly drain via a septic field. I was required to not interfere with my neighbor's quiet enjoyment with the environment or compromise the health of our precarious watershed. All of these requirements should pale in comparison to the level of scrutiny and the intense inspections that should already be occurring for this biorefinery project. The burden of responsibility that's placed on Wicomico County homeowners should alone negate the possibility of any such industrial waste project going into our community at large. And I don't mean on my street. It shouldn't happen anywhere near our water supply. Last month's council meeting included the discussion and ruling on dog kennels that are too close to a neighbor property because of noise. This project is less than 200 feet from Mr. and Mrs. Tallent's border property line and brings significantly more than just noise. As a resident of Wicomico County, I'm requesting that you council members add a discussion of this project to your meeting agenda, that you delay the appeal hearing process scheduled for a few weeks, and that you could let your community know how we got here. And if you are so gracious, if tonight we could find out how he's allowed to make an appeal if he's never actually applied for the proper permits. Thank you.
Hi, my name is James Darlene from Wicomico County. I'm here tonight in solidarity with these residents near Hickory Mill Road who are deeply concerned about the biorefinery project. I understand what it's like to be part of a community that feels unheard and where decisions have been made that may negatively impact their quality of life. I've experienced similar situations where our community's voice was disregarded or disparaged and the promise of development turned into a source of anxiety and distress. I hope to see a positive outcome for this community. And I urge the council to thoroughly consider their residents' concerns. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Timothy Cox. I live on Atkins Road, member of Wicomico County. I'm a veteran, and I have been in combat action supporting all of my fellow Americans. I'm a disabled veteran with a partial right lung. I spent 20 years in the military supporting this great country and all of its citizens. I want to take this opportunity to ask you to now support me by doing all that you can to prevent this biorefinery being approved in my residential agricultural neighborhood. I have enough issues trying to breathe without the issues that this biorefinery and the increased trucking will bring to my neighborhood. I want to thank all of you for being there regardless of who you are. I live with my disability because of my belief in you. I pray that I will be able to live whatever time I have left, free from any added issues with my ability to breathe brought on by a biorefinery in my neighborhood that should not be there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julia Talent, and my property is actually right beside the property where they want to put the biorefinery. It's less than 200 feet from my door. My well is only like 25 feet from the boundary line. It seems to me he did this, it was so sneaky the way he's done all this, and he obtained the permits under false pretenses. He said he was going to build an ag storage building, from what I understand, but it met the specs of the failed project in Willards. It's the same design, just much larger. So his intent was all along to have a biorefinery. And until the third building inspection was done, that's when Mr. Kia Safai realized that his intent, because he saw a drain in the cement foundation and realized he was, again, not going to have it for, his intention wasn't for ag storage, but for a biorefinery. We built our home back there 40 years ago and have lived back there quiet. We don't have to worry about noise or traffic. And the neighbor, the previous chicken farmer, he was wonderful. When he passed away, he sold his farm. Since then, everything has gone downhill. They don't keep the farm as it should be, and so we're overrun with the smell and flies, and now this. Based on this man's credibility, Mr. Cathuria, how that we keep giving him another chance, another bite of the apple, when he's, based on his credibility and his deceit. I just don't see, someone, planning and zoning, someone has dropped the ball. I just hope that you all can help me to stop this. I mean, I know the building is already there and is already an eyesore, but just don't let it go into operation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Diggs, Wicomico County resident. I actually live on Atkins Road, and that's where this biorefinery is. It says Hickory Mill, but it's actually Atkins Road. And I've got some documentation for everyone to, I hope you'll take the time to look at it, but it's going to show you 4 things. It's going to show you the immediate area of the neighborhood. I think there's like 225 to 230 signatures on a petition in opposition to this biorefinery. It's going to show you the environmental justice screening data for our neighborhood. I think it's a 1-mile radius. And it's going to show you that we have a very high percentage of asthma in our area, as well as some other conditions. And we are already considered an overburdened / sensitive population. The other things that are important to see in this documentation are permits. There's an MDE permit from the Maryland Department of Environment to Mr. Cathuria to construct a biorefinery that will produce biochar, biogas, and that permit was in June of 2024. The other permit I want you to take note of is a permit from August 2024 from Mr. Cathuria to the county to construct a storage building for storage. He clearly knew what he has built there. He clearly knew the purpose, and yet he clearly falsified the permit to Wicomico County to get over on everybody, to get what he wanted. Now this is his second grant. Now he got 1.2 million in 2015 for a Willards project. There were a lot of regulations not followed, and the Chesnicks wrote MDE and wanted corrections made. He walked away. They gave him another 1.8 to relocate to our area with no transparency. Even many of you, the ones that have responded to my emails, said you had no knowledge, no transparency. The last thing I want to say is I'm very disappointed. I feel like the state and the county has somewhat let us down, but furthermore, we have emailed, called, reached out, and the one person that represents our district, our neighborhood, that sits on that council that we elected has never responded to us. Do better, please.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Sari, and I'm a nursing student at Salisbury University. And I'm actually here to talk about my support for a environmental sustainability position within Wicomico County. I'm a Wicomico County resident. And I'd like to share my perspective about why I think this is important through the experience I've had as a nurse in this community. So this semester, I'm doing my clinical rotation with the health department. And we were given an assignment to basically drive around the community and look at different aspects like schools, neighborhoods, houses, as well as the environment, to get an assessment or a general overview of the community. And one thing I noticed was that there's a lot of garbage in Wicomico County, along the roadways, in our waterways. And it's garbage, it's beer cans, it's fast food waste, it's plastic bags. And so the purpose of this assignment was for me to get a general perspective of the community. And this is the perspective that people get of our community when they drive through and when they visit. And I think this is really unfortunate because as someone who's lived here for the past few years, I don't think that's an accurate representation of our community and our values. Wicomico County, we're hardworking people. We value the environment. Many people in Wicomico County rely on hunting and fishing and agriculture for a living, and we respect the environment, but that's not being represented in the way that our roadways and our waterways are maintained. So I think it's really important that we look towards hiring someone in the county to address these sustainability issues. And from a nursing perspective and a public health perspective, it's important to focus on policy. And I understand hiring someone for this position would have an initial cost. Obviously, you'd have to pay a salary for this person. But ultimately, these things pay off. That's why public health systems focus on prevention rather than treatment of the disease or treatment of the illness. And at this point in time, we're having volunteer organizations responsible for maintaining our community, for picking up litter in our community, and that is not sustainable, it's not efficient, and it ultimately, I think it deters tourists, it deters visitors, and it deters students and other young professionals from wanting to settle in our community. So hiring someone to investigate, why litter is an issue in our community, things we can do on a policy level, and then also taking into account the perspectives of all of our stakeholders. And this issue would ultimately address the root of the disease rather than simply the symptom. Thank you.
If I could ask, are you working with Wicomico Clean at all?
I am.
Oh, good. Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
Hi, Mikkel Darlene, Wicomico County. I'm really moved by just so many things I've heard tonight, and I just really want to stand in solidarity with everybody that is working on this issue with the biorefinery. My husband got up and spoke about the issues that our community faced last year, and what you're fighting now, we resonate with deeply. The lack of transparency, the lack of knowledge about situations that hold a deep impact for your community, for your environment, for your quiet enjoyment of your property. We've been in here in this room for a year and a half, and it's been long and drawn out, and I am praying that you guys get a rapid resolution, that it isn't drawn out, that you don't have to keep coming back here over and over again, that you can enjoy your properties and your families. In the meantime, I'm hearing a lot of things. As a community, we need to talk to each other. We need to worry about what's going on with our neighbors. We need to worry about how our actions impact others, whether it is with biorefineries, off-road vehicle parks, litter. All of these actions are connected, and they affect each and every one of us in one big chain. And for us to have a good economy, to have good public health, we need to, do our part, pay attention to each other, and we need to have that accountability. On that line, I do want to thank every member of the council tonight for overriding the veto. As we did fight this fight for the past year, we have felt that there have been ethical violations in the executive office. This is one step in the right direction for us to be able to address those grievances. Councilman Holloway, I know that you'd spoken last time about an open work session to deal with some of the other issues about ease of being able to file such a grievance as a citizen, because it's not an easy process. It's very difficult, and it's very intimidating, and so far we haven't been able to get it done. I hope that this all brings us one step closer each time that we stand at this podium to having a better community that works for all of us together. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Krista Hughes. I can't say anything any better than what these other guys have said, but I'm here to oppose the biorefinery on Hickory Mill Road / Atkins Road. We need the county council to represent the people and do the right thing here. This project represents a misallocation of taxpayer resources, a breach of public trust, and a threat to community health. We request a halt in operations and revoke permits for non-compliance and misinformation. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes.
Hey, excuse me. My name is Matthew Olson, Wicomico County resident, and I live over on Northwest Road, right before you get to Log Cabin Road. I think I'm here for the biorefinery, and I think what everyone said here has been pretty awesome. It's great to see everyone out here, so I thank everyone for coming, first and foremost. I just wanted to share with you guys, I'm sure maybe some of you know about it, but this ought to make your decision on this issue pretty easy. A few years ago, the city of Salisbury did a study on their water supply, and they determined that the Paleo Channel, which holds 7 billion gallons of water, should be deemed in a protection zone. So they put it in a protection district, Paleo Channel and Wellhead Protection District. Quick Google search of that, you can find all the documents that they've written on that. And it has all the boundaries, and this area is certainly well within the boundaries for that. And this supplies Salisbury and so the surrounding area of Wicomico County with its water supply. In this page here that I found, it simply states all uses permitted in the underlying zoning districts with the following exceptions: uses which discharge excessive amounts of water, or use, store, or generate raw or waste materials which are ignitable, corrosive, reactive, or toxic, such as but not limited to the manufacture of organic or inorganic chemicals, paint and pigments, petroleum refining, steel, metal products, fabrication, electroplating, and textile dyeing and finishing. I'm sure we can certainly find something in there that fits with what he's trying to do over there. So, we're talking about saving taxpayer money and making good use of it. I would hate to see the city of Salisbury try to sue the county for trying to, allow something to potentially taint the city's water supply. And I mean, that should make the decision pretty easy. I'll yield the rest of my 45 seconds if you want to call him and tell him he doesn't need to show up at the end of the week or a month. Just do this, get this done right now.
You're here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Patty Leonard. I live also on Atkins Road. I'd just like to say that I stand with my 230-plus neighbors that have signed the petition against the industrial use of the Hickory Mill Atkins Road property. And we don't understand why he was granted an appeal when he got the storage building that he requested the permit to build. So we're just wondering how that happened. And the last thing is, we would like the council to consider adding this discussion surrounding the biorefinery issue to a work session agenda, along with planning and zoning. We would really like to closely look at how the current laws protect communities from projects like biorefineries and DAF tanks. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Jim Atkins, Wicomico County. First thing I'd like to do is thank Mrs. Taylor for taking care of her department and her people who have the education and the qualifications to do the job. I'd also like to thank the council since I kind of had to do a backhanded presentation to get some discussion about these raises. Mrs. Taylor apparently is fixing problems that should have been fixed with previous directors of planning and zoning, previous finance directors, and previous executives. The only way you're going to have qualified people to run this county is to have people who are educated, who know what they're doing, and are paid the appropriate salary to come to Wicomico County and live and do the job and help us. Please don't forget the blue-collar people, though. The people who are out plowing your roads, cleaning out ditches, doing the landfill, the 911 people, and everybody else. Don't forget these people. The council's got a very difficult job coming up in front of them with the budget. We're looking at a fiscal year 26 budget. And unless something changed since this morning when I spoke to a couple people, the council's still waiting for a fiscal year 24 budget audit. It's kind of hard to plan ahead when you don't know where you've been or how you got to where you are. So again, Mrs. Taylor, thank you. Hopefully some of the other department heads will take care of their people, get them where they need to be, so that in the future we won't be giving 30% raises because these people were neglected to begin with. Got a director of public works coming after almost 5 years. So hopefully that's going to help the county. But we're paying him what he should be paid, at least to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Any other public comments?
I have one that doesn't pertain to the biorefinery.
Mr. Brandt?
It doesn't pertain to the biorefinery.
Okay.
I went to a council meeting to a town in January, and there was two gentlemen from Wicomico County. And to be honest with you, I wish I could remember their names. They gave me their card. One of their first questions that they asked the council was, why isn't anybody building, constructing anything in Wicomico County? So it made me think about it. Trash. Bruce, I want to thank you for what you do, and everybody else in your party that picks up trash. The homelessness, the gentleman that spoke up here before. And it really makes you think that if you look from the overhead bridge, right, in Salisbury, and you look down toward going to the hospital, it really believes there's got to be some improvement going on. I mean, our roads are in bad shape, and believe me, I think Salisbury can really grow. I mean, you really don't see a lot of builders building houses, and it's kind of frustrating when, you got people actually going to a different town and asking why they're building and why Wicomico's not, and it's a much bigger population. So I will sit back and say, you know what? It makes a lot of sense of some of the problems that we have. I mean, to me, if somebody wants to litter, I don't think the fines are big enough. I mean, seriously, I don't know what $500 will do. They'll keep right on doing it. I mean, actually, where I live, down on Jersey Road, they're throwing mattresses out on the road.
I saw it the other day.
I mean, seriously? And they do it in the middle of the night because they know they're not going to get caught. You know, I was at Dairy Queen the other day, and somebody actually opened their door to set their trash right in the road. I'm the type of person, I want to get out and say something. But I'm sure Mr. Baker and his colleagues would probably come lock me up. But I think Salisbury can do better on some of the things that we have. I mean, you got to ask yourself, what can we do better? You know, and that's all I got to say. But when you got two people coming there that mention that, it makes you wonder what's going on. And, oh, I want to pass this out. Can you pass it out? I don't know if you guys have seen this before. Sorry about the printing job. But this right here is off Jersey Road. And I don't know if you guys have seen this before. Maybe you guys can tell me what you think it is. Sorry about the...
This is right at an intersection, right? Isn't this at Jersey Road?
Well, it's down further. It's right after Colony Mill.
I saw this today.
Well, anyway, I know I've got 10 seconds, but just give me a few more. That is actually coming from someplace in Hebron of chicken waste that is getting spreaded in our fields down by our neighborhood. I don't know if have you guys ever seen this before?
For some Sims Brown.
That right there is getting sprayed on our fields. It smells highway to heaven. It is horrible. And you wonder why people aren't coming to Salisbury and why they're not building in Salisbury. That kind of stuff right there. And I guarantee you, if somebody tests that, that's going to paleo. I don't know, man. But smell it. It's horrible.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Just real quick, a reminder, I know everybody's got an invitation, but on March the 15th, a week from Saturday, we're having our next cleanup on Jersey Road. We're going to meet, I don't know how we picked that, but actually, and we're going to, take 6 of us, huh? We're going to meet at Mills Memorial Baptist Church at 9 o'clock, and all materials to help will be included, it's provided. Yep. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, that concludes public comments. Council comments. Shane? You guys fight it out. You guys.
Ladies first.
Yeah, Shane and Shaney. First, I want to make a public apology to my constituents when they try to get up with me and I don't respond. It's not your fault, it's my fault. And I want you all to keep me accountable. And what I've requested that my home number be put on the website, because I don't mind people calling me. And people say, don't put your phone on, but that doesn't bother me. I get calls all the time for different things. I'm the president of Chipman Center, so I coordinate events. So just call me if you need to get up with me, and I would appreciate that. I have my phone, I carry my phone around with me all the time because I live alone. I have some cards here. If they want my home number, I wrote on the back. I thought I had enough cards, but in case you all want a card to call me. And the second thing I want to say is that I'm totally against anything that disturbs the environment. Because when you plan things, you have to look at the trickle-down effect that it has on people. Now, where I grew up in the California section, partly until I was 6. In the California section, we have to deal with the Purdue factory. I know if I'm not politically correct, but we have odors in the summertime, the fans blowing in people's back doors. So this kind of stuff concerns me, and it seems like it's more and more of it from different companies coming in, disturbing, and what the lady said, peace and quietness. And I understand perfectly what she's saying, because I moved on Jersey Road back home, and the cars disturb my peace sometime, and I don't have to deal with the environmental issue, but I don't drink the water. I tell you right now, I don't drink the water. I get bottled water. I'm scared to drink it, tell you the truth. But I'm just saying that I support everything that you said tonight. I understand perfectly what you're saying, and I don't know why the building can't be tore down. It should be removed. Yeah, tear it down because it's disturbing the taxpayers, and you had all these signatures, and people need to take a look at the signatures that's on these petitions. Now, this man has come to the community and disturbed the people's welfare, and when the gentleman said he can't breathe, the cancer, the asthma, all these lung issues are very disturbing to me. And I will support anything against that particular issue or anything else that disturbs the environment. And the second thing, for people who are interested in playgrounds, San Domingo and places like that, I did request from the Parks and Recs to send me how many playgrounds are in the county, because I really don't know, and maybe do an assessment of the playgrounds and what their need. And I would suggest communities come together if they see a playground that's lacking certain things, that they bring it to the attention of me or another council person. But and as far as the gentleman said, no homes are being built, go down Pemberton Drive by Food Line. There are a lot of houses being built.
West side.
Yes, on the west side.
No, it's not on the west side.
It's not on the west side?
No.
Yes, it
You live on
is.
the west side.
Yes, it is on the west side of the city. And that's county, Pemberton, I think it's county.
That's down there by rich people.
Look, you got a point, young man, you got a point. Because you absolutely got a point. Huh?
We don't live like the rich people down there.
Look, you absolutely.
We get biorefineries in our area.
Yeah, you absolutely right. That's all I have to say.
So, talking about the biorefinery, somebody came up here and mentioned that they wanted to see a work session on that. I fully support it. I think we need to bring all the players, Mr. President, in here. These people deserve answers. We need to get it to them. If we need to sign letters, send letters, whatever we need to do, I'd fully support it. And I also want to tell you this, for any of you in here that think that you coming here might not make a difference, there's a couple people sitting in this room that fought for their community against the Safari of the Quarry. And I'm going to use this terminology, they won. And they're still very active in these meetings. So if you don't think that we see you all here, and it's very, people watching on PAC 14, people with Department of Environment, Planning and Zoning, they know you're here. We see these shirts. So keep up the pressure. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. So I fully support what you guys are doing. Talking about the San Domingo issue, I've talked to Ms. Brooks several times about it. We often talk about we want to keep kids off the street. We want to give them something to do. We don't want them in trouble. If some of the families, and apparently they have, want lights so the kids can play basketball, whatever, out there, then I think we need to seriously take a look at putting some lights up for the kids so they can play ball. We've spent money on other places, other parks throughout the county. Why can't we spend some money over in San Domingo and get these kids, give them something to do? So, other than that, thank you everybody for coming out. Good to see everybody, but don't stop fighting. Don't stop. Keep pushing.
Before I forget. Yeah, I support what Shane said. I think we should have a work session in the future.
This is Council Lady. You weren't here when I spoke before at the last meeting. I live on Atkins Road. I'm a little over 300 feet from this bio plant. I'm 87 years old. I have asbestos from the Navy, and my breathing is short, and I don't need what it's going to come from that place. So That's all. You weren't here. You seemed to be aware of the environmental effects on it. But that's all.
Could you state your name for us, sir?
Thought you needed to hear my say.
What's your name, sir?
Raymond Dillon.
Thank you.
I'm known as Ray Dillon. I was in the refrigeration business here for, I don't know, 50 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. I don't know if, obviously, I think the planning and zoning meeting is the 27th, is what I'm understanding. So I think after, that's the 27th, so everybody here should show up to that, clearly. But I agree with Shane. I think we should have some sort of a work session, an informational work session, so people understand how this happens in our county. Maybe we should get the health department and planning and zoning here at one time to figure out how does this happen? I mean, because these are things that come down from the state, and we don't know that. It just happens, and it happens through the health department or however it happens, and I think we should have more clarification on that so you all understand. So when it comes down to when you vote next time, you look at who is running the state, and things have got to change, right? It's got to change at the top, and we can only do so much on the county level because our hands are tied on many, many things. And it's frustrating because the Wicomico County Health Department says Wicomico County on the top of it, but it's not Wicomico County. It is the state of Maryland's health department with our name on it, and we have to pay for it. So it makes no sense. It's not fair. It's not right. But I agree with Shane. I think we should have some sort of a work session on it in the future. I would like to also mention, I have a town hall tomorrow night at the Hebron Lions Club. I'm inviting every single council member. You're invited. And anybody that lives on the west side, we're going to talk about the light. David James, you mentioned the light on 50 and where Wrights Market is. I have the state of Maryland. They had told me they're going to be there, so they better be there. And they have a plaque or whatever it's going to look like. So they're going to show us what that light is going to look like. They can give us more of a timeline and all these things that you would like to talk to them about. You can ask them a question. And then also we're going to talk about, there's a potential park called West Metro Core that it's being proposed to be built on Leavenworth Shield Road. And I want to hear more feedback from the public on what they think about having another park on Leavenworth Shield Road. And if you have opinions about that, you don't have to tell me right now. You can come tomorrow night and you can absolutely give me your opinion then, and then hopefully we can move on from that. And I think that is all I have. I really appreciate everyone coming out here tonight, and this is exactly how you make your voices heard, because in this world, like, there's no real way to voice your concerns. You can yell at someone, but this is the most effective way, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
And James, hey James, you're still having steak and baked potato and everything.
As long as you're bringing it.
Josh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, just want to say thank you again for everyone for coming out, for being here. I know it's not where you plan on spending your Tuesday evenings, but I do appreciate it. I did want to say, I want to put this in a little context. First of all, Ms. Tracy Taylor, she just, as we mentioned here, she's sitting in front. She came to Wicomico County to be our planning director not that long ago, if you all picked up on that. I was going to share last week I was in Annapolis, and I was happened to talk to kind of the guru of planning in Maryland, and I was literally in the State House, and this person says, I heard Tracy came to Wicomico County because you all have no idea what you are getting. I was like, I actually know, I've known her for a very long time. I know exactly what we're getting. So for that, I just want to say, make sure you understood that we've got, thank you for all you do, and thank you for coming to use your resources here. This is going to be a long process, but I certainly, I think it was mentioned here, the EJ screening, the issues that we've had from the dog kennel to the biorefinery issues, the DAF tank. Not only do we have a lot of challenging land use issues, but from when I was a kid, from then till when I was born to now, we've added over 40,000 people to Wicomico County. To be clear, that's more than all of Dorchester County combined and part of Somerset County. So that's a lot of population. And so that amount of population, and especially into our rural areas, it's going to cause conflict. So that's where we can do better with zoning and trying to make sure that we're being thoughtful there. So we are going to, I think the comp plan process, I don't want to misspeak, but I think we start that process in 2027. And that's where we get to the comprehensive planning process, where we really start to look at all of these things, including our zoning and all that. So I think we really need to make sure to lean into that as a community, because our county's probably only going to continue to grow, especially with the growth of Sussex County and others. So, and then the last thing I'll say, I did just want to say also thank you again, for the folks who are for the cleanups. I see Mr. Robson and others. These have been really, really great efforts. And I've got the flyer here. Please spread the news. But thank you for bringing it up. March 15th, 9 to 11. We really need to do a better job making sure that our county is the kind of place that people want to come live. That we may not be able to do anything about some of the smells. I know you all, if you step outside this building right now, you may smell the ag. That's state law. March 1st, landowners get to put, farms get to put down nutrients. That's just kind of comes with our territory. But what we can do is make sure that our land is clean, that we are thoughtful about where factories go, and that shouldn't be in residential neighborhoods. Thank you all for being on here. Appreciate it.
Thanks everybody for coming out. I want to address some things that were said at the podium. On the per pupil funding, that figure, and we've argued this for a number of years, that figure never includes what we've spent on building new schools or remodeling schools. 18 years ago, there was numerous schools in Wicomico County without air conditioning. The council approved funding for that. Prince Street, Mardella was very majorly remodeled, almost to the cost of building new schools. But there's been major remodeling work done on Delmar and Pittsville. We've built Bennett High, Bennett Middle, West Side, Beaver Run, and we have Fruitland in the works. Willards was built 22 years ago. So those figures are never included in the per pupil funding, and they should be. This council and the county executives have been very generous as far as supporting education. So I think that needs to be put into per pupil funding. I think it'll look a lot better. The Shorebirds grant tonight, if anybody pays attention to state government, there's a $3 billion shortfall this year, supposed to be, I think, $6 billion next year or whatever. They don't know. So we don't know if they don't know. But we've been warned about this for a long time. But this is a perfect example. I see the gentleman from the Shorebirds. He's going to be up here in a little bit. Maybe he can share a little more light on this. But no pun intended there. But anyway, the lady from Rec and Parks, 900,000. No idea where that number came from. No wonder the state's in trouble. If they're applying for grants, handing out grants for $900,000 and nobody knows what it's for. I mean, it's unbelievable. Where did you come up with that number? Well, we don't know. Delegate Anderson put it in. Who knows? As far as the mattresses along the road, if you call the executive's office, they do send people out to pick up trash. It's the number's 410-548-4801. There's a budget hearing on the 10th of this month at 7 p.m. at the Civic Center. I suppose, is it at Civic Center? Yeah, Civic Center usually is, yeah, thought so. Not building in Wicomico County. There's a lot of building going on in Wicomico County. The reason that you don't see building in the rural areas like you do, and most of it's apartments being built around Salisbury, is environmental, because they made it so restrictive on septic tanks, like the lady said a while ago. She had to spend all this money for just think if you were going to build a house. I mean, you see these mound systems. The other thing is they require sprinklers in homes now. It's mandatory. You know, adds to the cost. And the big one now is the EV charging stations. You build a new home now, you've got to put an EV charging station in that new home, whether you ever plan on having an electric vehicle or not. So state regulations has restricted a lot of the building in the rural area. So anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Cannon. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I too want to thank everybody for coming out. Like Shane said, it's very important that we hear from everybody on issues like the biorefinery. I want to thank Tracy Taylor for actually alerting us to the biorefinery by the email, letting us know that they'd issued a stop work order. Until that point, we didn't know about it because we had no role in it. We weren't part of the planning, the permitting, or anything else. But thank you, Ms. Taylor, for letting us know. And then the ball has rolled from there. We've talked a lot about the budget, the upcoming budget. It will be very difficult. There's federal funding issues that have transferred into state funding issues, and they will likely translate into county funding issues. I know Josh has been up to Annapolis. I've been up to Annapolis a couple times, and a half hour ago I got an email that I have to go up next Wednesday to testify on another bill to prevent everybody from being taxed when they go to their hairdresser, get their car detailed, or get their taxes done by an accountant. They want to tax that on professional services now. So basically, if it's moving, they want to put a tax on it. And some of the things that aren't moving, they'd like to tax that too. But again, thank you everybody for coming out. We appreciate the feedback. Don't hesitate to send emails, call, text, however you need to get a hold of us. That's how we can we can't fix a problem that we don't know exists. And by you all sending emails to us and contacting us, that actually helps us get on the path to solutions. So that's all I got. Thank you.
The couple things I'd like to make a comment. Dave, I appreciate your comments today. If I missed your call, I apologize. I've known you for many years, and I always return your calls. Old Railroad Road, it's funny, Saturday night I was going to a Farm Bureau banquet in Sharptown. What did I see? Overturned vehicles at that same intersection. Two large ag trucks had hit each other at that same intersection. And I've been at that intersection and experienced a lot of issues that you don't know who has the right of way there. State came down originally, I think about a year ago, similar to what James was suggesting. They wanted to put J-turns there, which would have made it even worse. So luckily, there was a lot of pushback to the state level, and I'm glad you're going to have them at your town hall, because I believe they finally have acquiesced and they've decided that the best thing for this county would be streetlight as opposed to anything else. But it is a very dangerous intersection, so I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Families and not refineries. Really appreciate the shirts. That's really good. Glad to have you all here. It's very important, as others have said, when we do get one-on-one input from the community, and it always makes a difference. The county, we have equal concerns, and we also do have equal questions as to what's happened here. I know I received a call from the Chesnicks it was a few months ago now. And Michelle was like saying, this guy, and she explained what he had done to her property. Michelle knows the farming business inside and out. She doesn't miss a thing. And she had huge concerns. This is after he flew the coop at from her property.
No pun intended, right?
Yeah. But and now he's on Hickory Mill, which is worse actually. So we're hoping that something can come about that. We're still honestly shaking our heads about a DAP tank on the west side of the county. Again, I spent an entire morning with about 10 suits from Maryland Department of Agriculture, Maryland Department of the Environment, going on and on how about this DAP tank was a legitimate agricultural use. The funny thing is that when I got out of the car, I had to do it as quickly as I could because there were 3,000 flies circling the vehicle at the time that we were at this meeting with the state of Maryland. So again, we really want to make sure that we try to keep these mistakes from happening on a state level. Tracy Taylor, again, excellent work in quickly issuing that stop work order, and in that stop work order clearly stating that the proposed use is not a permitted use in the ag zone. But if you want to know about that definition, if you want to get your money's worth from that definition, you need to be here, as James said, you need to be here in these exact same seats on March 27th at 6 o'clock in this same room. You can take off your shirts, tape them to the chairs so that you have them reserved for March 27th, okay? Because that is where it stops. And if from what we understand, if it is overturned, or if the Board of Appeals says, no, you can't do it, they don't come back to the county council. They don't go back to Ms. Taylor. They go to the circuit court. So you have to understand where your options are and where you can really get the most advantage. And that is going to be on March 27th. That's going to be, where the gauntlet's laid down. I would strongly suggest, I was really surprised that the board does not have emails. The only email that's listed online takes you back to Ms. Taylor's office. So the only thing I can say is if you go online and with the email that's down below, it's Mr. Meadows' email that's on there. But there's a phone number there as well. I would recommend that you use the phone number. Ms. Taylor, I don't know how we would arrange it, but it's not an elected body, so I don't know if that's why they're not issuing emails. I just don't know how this process might work. We all have the emails, I know, because we've gotten all your emails. But I think it's going to be beneficial for your organization to find out how to get the emails of the members of the board. There's 6. It's a 7-member board, but right now, as I understand, there's only 6 on, right now there's 1 vacancy. You could fill that vacancy too if you wanted. But that is the most important thing right now, between now and the 27th. However you may do it, find out what those email addresses are for the board members and see if you can't, correspond with them as well, just as you have with us.
I'm sorry, Mr. President,
yes,
I don't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
I think the Board of Appeals is kind of like a quasi-judicial body.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a court case, I don't think it's appropriate to send emails to the judge. And I don't think they should be sending emails to the members of the Board of Appeals. They need to show up at the hearing for the Board of Appeals and testify.
All right.
But I don't think, with all due respect, they're what would be referred to as a quasi-judicial body, and they're going to make a decision based on the evidence that's presented to them at that hearing.
Okay.
Not things that are presented to them outside the hearing. If they want to say something, they need to come to the hearing and they need to testify at the hearing. So.
All right, I'll retract all that. I was concerned that they weren't an elected body, and that may be the issue that reason it's not.
I understand that. I just think it's
better to know now.
The people that are here that are interested in this need to go to the hearing, and they need to sign up, and they need to testify at the hearing. That's the correct way to do it.
Okay.
And it's only based, if this goes any further than that, it's going to be based on what happens at that hearing, not an email that they got 2 weeks before. So they need to go to the hearing.
Thanks for the clarification. What I would suggest then would be for you to make sure you know the process. So if you need to sign up ahead of time, or if you need, make sure you.
Who can tell us that process?
Right there.
Perfect.
Tracy, are you aware of that process now?
Yes.
If you would use a mic, that would help. Thank you.
So there are 2 categories of people that can testify at the hearing. There are interested parties, and then there are other parties that can still testify. Interested parties are those that are either adjacent to or within 200 feet of the property. Those individuals can testify. They can bring an attorney if they so choose to testify. They have a greater standing because of their proximity to the property. However, those that are outside the 200-foot or the adjacency can also make public comment as well. The tendency in the Board of Appeals hearing is to give unlimited time to adjacency and within 200 feet and limited comments to those beyond that.
What's the limited comment?
I have, just timing-wise, not unlimited, it's usually timed, and that's at the discretion of the chairman. But we have been taking, and many of the people here tonight have emailed me and or Clark, we have been keeping an interested parties list, and we're noting who's adjacent, who's within 200 feet. We'll have that list, but we are putting everybody on the list that wants to be there that night. You don't have to be on a pre-list to speak. Anybody can speak. It's just a matter of whether you're adjacent or within 200 feet or not. So everybody will have the opportunity. I've had many people email me already. I've had probably a dozen or more PIA requests. I've responded to all of those. I think Ms. Talent has contacted me today and a couple times yesterday. So we're trying to be very responsive to everyone, and I sent out a very detailed email to the council last evening of the entire process. And Ms. Talent had questioned. One clarification I think would be important to make tonight. This appeal, the department put a stop work order as soon as we found out that it was a biorefinery. We then made a zoning interpretation that it does not meet the code. That was our determination, meaning that's it. At that point, as any applicant would have, they have the ability to appeal our decision. So just as a point of clarification, they are not appealing any permit that they applied for. Their permit at this point is still under stop work order. They are appealing our decision, our zoning decision, and they are going to try to convince the board that the planning department made an erroneous decision in determining that this is not a permissible use in that zone. That is the only thing that will be argued at the Board of Appeals. If the board upholds our decision, then the stop work order stays in place and the permit or the use is not allowed, and then the applicant has the option to appeal to circuit court.
Would it be okay for anyone to call you?
Absolutely.
Is your number still 548-4860?
Yes, sir.
The office? So if y'all want to write it down in here, it's 410-548-4860. That's kind of the old school way, I guess. Okay, yes, sir.
Just one question. From here, this group here is going to testify.
I think he's asking who from this group here qualifies for those two different distinctions as far as.
I think he means the council.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who from the county is going to be representing your decision? What lawyers can represent your decision?
That will be Erica. It's from the law firm. Andrew Illuminati is the attorney for the Board of Appeals. So because in this case where we have made a determination, we felt it was important to have a separate attorney represent staff and their decision. So Erica will be representing staff, Andrew will be representing board, and testimony can potentially be given by myself, by Kia Safai, our chief building official, and Clark Meadows. That's what we anticipate.
Thank you.
Andrew's representing the board?
Yes, Andrew always represents the Board of Appeals, and we rarely have an attorney that would represent staff. But because this is different, this is not a request before the board for a special exception or a variance by an applicant. This is actually an appeal to our decision, to staff's decision, so staff needs an attorney as well. Andrew can't represent both the staff and the board.
I get that. I was just looking if someone would perceive a conflict where
We
they're
did-
in the same office.
Yes, sir, we did look into that, and we contacted the appellant, or the applicant's attorney, Mr. Showalter, and we got confirmed in writing that he did not see it as a conflict of interest for us to have two from the same firm. We agreed to establish a Chinese wall between the two, and he has on paper agreed to allow us to do that.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you very much.
Hey, Tracy, what about fines?
Excuse me.
What about some of the fines? I mean, because he's done stuff illegally, supposedly, right? What about some of the fines that, will he be acquiring any fines for what he's done illegally? I mean, because if anybody else did something illegal, I mean, we got to admit, here to put as far as building or something like that, we would probably be having fines per day until we fix the problem, right?
So typically, when someone comes in for a farm structure, as you all know, we're very accommodating to the farming community to allow for storage structures. If this were simply a storage structure, as he had put on the building permit, that structure would have been allowed to stay. The use that's in question is the biorefinery, which was the use within the storage structure. As of now, we've been having somebody go out weekly to verify that it's not operational, and it is still, as of last Friday, it is not operational, and we've been diligent about that. So until the biorefinery, which is the use in question, would become up and running, then we don't have an issue with the building, because that would be an agricultural use, it would be allowed. It's the use within that structure that is at question. So if our decision is upheld at both the Board of Appeals and if the Appeal Circuit Court, he will not be allowed to assemble the equipment and run the biorefinery, but he will be allowed to have the building as a storage building.
And he would only be subject to fines once a determination was made by the Board of Appeals or the Circuit Court, and he continued to operate.
He's technically not in violation of anything right now because he has not assembled and used the biorefinery.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. A little bit irregular, but I did want to allow input from the public. We're not done yet, real quick. Thank you again, Mr. Benson, because I think I was way on the wrong road there on the email issue. So I appreciate you clarifying that. That being said, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn from legislative session to go into open work sessions, followed by a closed work session pursuant to the local government article section 3-305B1 to discuss a personnel matter pertaining to the appointment of a director of public works to protect the privacy of the individual.
Move.
Second.
Second.
We're going to recess for 5 minutes, if you don't mind. Sure. Oh, my God. I mean,
thank you.
Volumes. We're reconvening as Wicomico County Council legislative session 2025-05 for March 4th, 2025. The first item on the open work session is with Delmarva Shorebirds. It's a community report. We have Mr. Chris Bitters, the general manager, Delmarva Shorebirds, and one of the most conscientious individuals when it comes to our community and the great work they're doing in this community. We're glad to have you here.
President and council members, thank you very much. I appreciate the invite, and it's been a year or so since I've been here at least, and it's spring training. We're off and rolling down in Florida, and a little over 30 days till Shorebirds baseball returns to Salisbury. So
can't wait.
I'll touch on a couple topics. I figured if we can get out of here by midnight, we're all pretty happy. I stop at, Delmarva Power's off, so we'll pound forward here. But no, talking a couple different things. Shorebirds, Orioles, in terms of the baseball side of things, has gone very well. The last several years, the Mike Elias era, I'll call it. When you look at that major league team, and if you follow the Orioles, whether it's Adley Rutschman, Ryan Mountcastle at first, Jackson Holiday or Jordan Westberg at second, Gunnar at third, Cedric in center field, Grayson Rodriguez on the mound. All those dudes I just named started right here in Salisbury when they got drafted and came and played. They were all playing right here at 6400 Hobbs Road. And that's just, I could keep going on. There's plenty more on the 40-man roster. Felix Batista, who's coming back from an arm injury. So there's a lot of guys, and there's more guys coming. So it's been a really good, rebuilding from the minor leagues and getting them to the big leagues is what the plan has been and continues to be at this point from the Orioles, and we're fortunate that for most of these kids in their career, we're that first stop. So when you're coming to a game, again, you had 2 chances to see Jackson. We are continually going to get generally the first round and the first picks of the draft every August. The way the draft's set up, draft's in July, and then they have a certain amount of days to assign them to an affiliate. Most of those young men will get sent to Salisbury some point late July, early August, depending upon all the different timings of things. But it's going great. Obviously, the Orioles have made the playoffs 2 years in a row, so hopefully we can continue that trajectory and keep making the playoffs and hopefully make a run soon in the playoffs to get to the next level of the World Series. So But it's been great. And again, if you look at that roster, if you're watching an O's game, know that most of those kids are right here in Salisbury, Maryland, on Hobbs Road. So in the community, I came a few years ago, I think when some of these council members were new, and presented some older community reports. If you want prior ones, I can give those to you, but this is the most recent one from 2024. So it's fresh, somewhat hot off the press, we'll call it. Our community year kind of mentally runs from October through September, which is our kind of baseball season, right, off season through the end of our season. So some of what you see in here is going to reflect that. So if it's any confusion, that's what, that's where our season runs. But I'm not going to walk you through it. Obviously, I know Miss Laura put it in the briefing book. I know it maybe didn't come out so great because it's a digital booklet that got printed off, but brought you the one professionally printed today. But when I got here in 2007, one of the first things I did after I got my feet on the ground was to establish a community fund with the community foundation, so that then our goal would be to host events, functions, and other ways to raise money to then give back out into the community. We've been doing that since 2009. Some of the funds that we've given out were for Field 7.5 over Henry Parker Complex. We were one of the first people when Steve Miller and I had the idea about a field. We had funds that we were able to then at least provide that first seed funding to get going. And we try to support every Little League. If a Little League needs a wall sign, team sponsor, whatever it is, give us a call. We'd love to support you. We'll be busy next month with Sherman appearances at every Little League opening day that we can be at. The fund is generally designed for youth sports and youth activities, but we do venture out from there, and we do our best to any money we raise, put it to the fund, and then the fund is able to donate it back out to the qualified nonprofit that we send it to. So, but we've had that since 2009, and that was one of my first initiatives a couple years after I got my feet on the ground, and understanding that I didn't need to go set up a whole 501c3, that I could just go down the road on 50 and go set this fund up that I can advise and tell them where to send the money. So. I won't walk you through every page, but some of the things we do, and I don't know if I'm breaking up or I feel like I'm breaking up. But
I wouldn't want you to leave without at least highlighting each and everything that you listed there, because it is that important. I know everyone is on a time restraint, but please.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't try to ever pat my own back. But I did learn from some smart people years ago, you do have to share your story. And I want to do good just for the sake of, that's what we need to do. With the minor league baseball team in Salisbury, Maryland, Wicomico County, we need to do good. But this is our way of sharing that story at least. It's in our email footers, it's in print. Every Sunday we do Strikeout Hunger Sunday, where fans can bring canned food items to make a donation at the ballpark. Bring 4 canned food items, you get a ticket to another game. It's that simple. So what does a canned food item cost? Well, I don't know anymore, but $1 or so, a couple bucks, whatever it is, you bring those canned food items. Normally every Sunday we're able to walk away with 3-4 barrels of food that we're able to donate back to the Maryland Food Bank. And then on top of that, our partnership with Purdue, $10 for every strikeout throughout the season gets donated to the food banks on behalf of the Strikeout Hunger promotion that we've been doing since we hosted the All-Star game here back in 2011. Silver Sluggers is a great program. If you're over 55, and I know 55 is not that old, I don't know if we feel that way, but it's our senior program. It's on Wednesdays. We have about 1,500 people that participate in this program. I can't remember the exact price, somewhere between 30 and 50 bucks. You get all 11 ball games. So if you do the math, 40 bucks, call it on average, divided by 11, that's how much is per ticket. You get a ball cap, you get a party to meet the players, all for, again, less than 50 bucks. So it's a great package. It continues to grow every year. The first year we did this program, I got told by seniors that it's a scam. There's something up because it's too good of a deal. And then we only had about 100 people that year sign up for it. And then all of a sudden, that 100 came out, realized it's real, told their friends and neighbors about it, and now we're up to about 1,500 people that participate in this Silver Slugger program. Hit the Books, that's going on right now. The Hit the Books program is our largest community program. We pretty much work with every elementary and a bunch of middle schools on the Delmarva Peninsula. Last year was 112. I believe we're in that neighborhood again this year. To encourage kids to read books outside the classrooms. It's simple. Read 4 books outside the classroom at your level of reading dictated by your teacher. Turn your bookmark back into your teacher that you've completed the program by due this week actually, just wrapped up. And we'll give you 2 complimentary tickets to come out to your school's night. So you give them 2, so it's not 1. It's so that, again, somebody that maybe doesn't have the means it's mom and daughter, dad, son, whatever, they've got 2. So obviously, be able to come out. We have over 53,000 students that participate in this program. They get the bookmark, they participate. Give or take about 50% actually complete the program, and then they get 2 tickets. So the quick math is 50,000 participate, half complete it, you get 2 tickets. We're donating 50,000 tickets to the community to just read books and come out to a ball game, parade them around the field, recognize the kids on the field, and come out and have a good time. And it's usually a promotional night, like a fireworks night or a national act. We generally don't do giveaways because they're the first 1,000, and we got lots of kids coming. So usually we do something that everybody can enjoy. So that's our biggest program. It's wrapping up now. When I got here, that program was about 40 schools. And they said, no, we can't get any bigger. I said, well, I think we can. Let's go. Summer reading, same thing. We work with a lot of libraries to encourage kids to get to the libraries. We don't dictate the program. We let the library dictate the program, whether it's checked out books, come to some of their events that they read at, things of that nature. We get out, we try to take the mascot, take players, and read books to them. Same thing during Hit the Books. We visit schools, read books to the kids. We have Casey at the bat, but we've redone it as Sherman at the bat. So anyways, between those 2 programs, we donate about 59,000 tickets out to the community for kids to be able to come out to a ball game. All you got to do is complete some of these things. I'll just touch on a few of these. Obviously, we do our scout night. We do our kids club. You want to talk about value? I had somebody commented on our Facebook page about value the other day on this kids club. For $30, you can get 2 tickets to every Sunday game. So if you're a family in the community that wants to come out to Shorebirds game, got something to do on Sunday, it's like buying tickets for 1 game, but you get all the Sundays. It's part of our kids club. You get some other membership benefits. I know this isn't a marketing ploy, but my point is that we try to be very mindful of what we're doing and how we're engaging the community, and particularly people that may not have the resources to go to Baltimore and go to a game or come out to a game. We got a $30 kit program where you could buy for $60, get 2 packages. Mom and dad, 2 kids can come to every Sunday game. So school day games, we do our 11 o'clock games. We're at school field trips. They bring the kids. We teach them about how baseball ties back to their education, whether it's batting average, where the players are from. We have a lot of players from all over the country. Teacher Appreciation Night, we partner with the local credit union, to donate free tickets to the teachers to come out, and then they actually donate money to every school district as well. Baseball camps, we host those. Little League nights, we have those. Pretty standard stuff. Wag Your Tail Tuesdays. Again, everything we do, we try to tie it back to the community. So this is a night where you can bring your dog to the ballpark. But get your dog in, you got to bring canned food items for the dogs, paper towels, whatever the shelters and those need. Or if you don't have those things, give us a little cash. We'll put it in the kitty and we'll get it over there too. So everything we do, even though, yes, we're a business, we're trying to get people to come to the ballpark, we try to tie it back ways to support the community. Through Valvoline, all you got to do is bring a used book to my gift shop, and you can get a discount in my gift shop plus a discount card to Valvoline to oil change. So again, we donate those books back to the Rotary Club and their little free libraries they have, and they're able to put those out and restock.
Is that any game?
Huh? It's on Tuesdays. That's on Tuesdays, yep. Jersey auctions, if you've seen these and been out to the ballpark, we do a number of these, whether it's our Flock for a Cure night, Go Purple night, which is our opioid awareness night, or Operation We Care, which obviously I know somebody up there is aware of, and we've been working together for years on it. So we do a lot of Jersey nights that the proceeds, after you take what we raise minus the cost of Jersey, goes back to the charities. We try to do about 4 or 5 of those a night. You can't overdo it because then people get a little exhausted of writing that bid number down on the auction. But 4 or 5 times a year, we really try to give back in different ways to raise some funds. Our hot stove banquet, we just hosted our largest one ever. That was just past January at the Wicomico Civic Center. We actually finally booked the Civic Center arena floor. We had 585 people there to listen to the Orioles manager Brandon Hyde speak, have a nice dinner by the Civic Center staff, and we raised a ton of money by that. We've typically been over in the Midway room and tapped that out at 400 guests. So we were able to this year with the availability of the arena floor and move it to there. So it was great. Our biggest event ever. We've been doing hot stove banquets for 22 years. And then I won't go through the next 3 pages. Those are just monthly recaps of kind of what we did again. But, as a general manager, both my girls grew up in Del Mar. My youngest daughter was 6 months. My oldest daughter was 5 years when I moved here. We've been actively involved in the community. Both my girls went through Del Mar schools. They went through Del Mar Little League. My wife works in public service. My job as general manager has been able to use the platform of the Shorebirds to go back out in the community and how can we do good. Wicomico Clean, I know it's here earlier. We've got their billboard on our Route 50 marquee. We post stuff for them. I want to get out there with Jeff and James and others that have been out there picking up the trash, but every Saturday I just can't figure out how I can't make it. But we do whatever we can to give back to the community and support the community that supports us, because obviously any business in this community, where it's a ball team or any other business, doesn't exist without the support of the community. So, things we try to do, we did the hurricane relief thing. A lot of people jumped in for that. We do the drive-through flu clinic with Title Health at the state. We've been doing that for years. We have the Warwick trucks out there with our partnership with Warwick, letting them do truck driver training out there, which we all need. So again, you guys can read and go through the rest of it. I don't want to take up, I know I got Matt Drew behind me that is on deck, so I'd be glad to answer any questions you have about the team, what we got cooking, but it's an exciting time in Delmarva and for the Shorebirds, for the Orioles, and I'll keep working hard to be a good steward of our team and our community.
It's amazing what you go through just now in 15 minutes, and we know you could have gone an hour, and I'm not exaggerating. You could have gone, you had to rush it, and you still could have gone an hour because you left so much out. Yeah. But you also run a baseball team, and a minor league baseball team, and you also run a stadium. So, hats off to everything that you're doing. It's absolutely phenomenal. I know anytime I've ever called you or people have called you to say, hey, can you help us with something, the Shorebird Stadium always comes through and always gets it done.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and we try not to say no. It's a bad habit of minor league teams is you say yes, sometimes to your own detriment, to do maybe extending yourself, but I really appreciate the feedback and the comments, and that's our goal, and I couldn't do it. I got a great staff. A lot of my staff have been there for years. Jimmy Sweet, my assistant, outdates me at the ballpark, and I got other people who've been with us 5, 10, 15 years, so if I'm doing it right, I'm just signing the checks on Thursdays to pay the bills and give top line direction. But we got a great staff that cares as well, so we're fortunate.
It's your leadership too. I mean, I've been there. You walk the walk. I've seen you out in the field, with the with the tarp and whatever else you have to do. But you're right in the thick of it. We can never underestimate what the impact is to Wicomico County. My wife's from New York. We go there, and I can talk to them about what we do in Wicomico County. And as soon as I tell them that we have a minor league stadium in Wicomico County for the Orioles, that's what they want to hear about.
Right.
That's the first thing. That's the one thing they want to talk about. That's the impact that you guys are having.
Well, thank you. And the one thing I was remiss to mention, and think about where you're at this time, but while we're not celebrating it this year, we'll celebrate next year. This is our 30th season. So think about that, where you're at 30 years ago. I don't know what age you were. I've got kids that were 6 years old coming to the games. They're now 36-year-olds bringing their kids back to the games, or their kids are calling me they want to be bat boys coming to the games when their dad was a bat boy back in '96 or whatever it was. So we're not celebrating this year because 2020 doesn't quite count as a season. We didn't play. So next year will be our 30th season. This would be the 30th year that the buildings existed.
That's great.
Wow. So I'd remind people of that, because a lot of times people don't recall that we've been around that long. It just feels like just yesterday. But think about where you're at 30 years ago.
Josh?
I was just going to say, I've told you before, but I still have 30 years ago. I was there opening night. I still have my program. It's mint condition. I looked at it the other day. It's pretty awesome to see. But thank you for all you do.
You give these annual reports out to every game, everybody that comes in the stand. I know it's a lot of money.
I do not know. We distribute them at our hot stove banquet. Mm-hmm. We have them for purposes like this for our stakeholders. And then what we do is we have it published digitally on our website. Mm-hmm. And then like any of our staff, if I emailed you today, it's on the bottom footer of my email as a readable booklet online as well. So
yeah, and you know the marketing thing, but I would when I was reading this, I thought you need to hand this to everybody in the stadium so that they know what's, I don't know if everyone knows all this.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And again, I'm bad at, again, I just want to do what we can to be who we are and do what we want and do it right. And I don't necessarily, I don't like to try to, brag again, but I do know we need to share our story. So that's why we started doing these, because I wasn't good at sharing our story or posting things on Facebook or social media. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
You're doing good, trust me.
We can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You, in the 7 years that we've been working with you, we've been able to, Operation We Care has been able to donate almost $50,000 to the VFW Military Family Assistance Fund. So that's helped with utility bills, car payments, and home repairs. And so because of you, we've been able to help, I don't even know how many families.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and we appreciate the partnerships that make these things happen. So
And that's just one of these things in your, the scope of your work, I can't even imagine.
thank you.
Thanks again, Chris. We appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Yep. Anytime.
Next year, this time.
Any way we can help you, let us know, okay?
Will do.
No, seriously.
Sorry, I broke the mic.
Let us know.
Somebody's going to have to repair that.
Be all right.
I'll stay for Matt. So he doesn't mind.
That's how it happens.
Next item on the agenda, we have Mr. Matt Drew. And Matt came to me because of his concern about what is being implemented on the state level and what is so important for the businesses in Wicomico County to understand as to what to anticipate with a lot of new directives coming down from the state level. So some of it's a little bit unnerving, but I appreciate, Matt, I appreciate you approaching me and saying, look, can I come to help explain this so the public's made more aware of this? And I really appreciate your taking that initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity. And Chris Bitters is a hard act to follow, so but I'll try to do my best. So I put together a set of slides. I know it's late in the evening. You guys have had a long day, so we're going to try to
all night. You go ahead.
Oh well, we'll try to make this an interesting presentation. So in 2022, the Maryland General Assembly passed legislation called the Clean. Gosh, I can't even think of what the name of it is. I'll think of it as we go through the presentation. But one of the Climate Action Now, that's what it's called. Thank you. Josh was going to help me, I know. And one of there are several initiatives that came out of this, but one of the initiatives was looking at buildings that are greater than 35,000 square feet. So to give you a kind of a sense of what that might look like, the building that we're sitting in now is about 10,000 square feet per floor, but there's 4 floors to this building. So this would be a building that would count. So a building like of the size, the one that we're in, any building that's that size or greater is going to have to start to do some things that it's never had to do before. And the building owner is going to be the ones who are responsible for doing this. So if you have a building of this size, starting this year, you have until the 1st of September to compile all the energy usage for that building and submit it to the state of Maryland in a certain form. And that'll be the case from now until 2030. So if you can picture kind of like the same way you file income taxes, you're going to have a person who takes responsibility for aggregating all this data and submitting it electronically. And then in 2030, there's going to be a comparison of how much greenhouse gas your building is emitting compared to a standard number. And if you're over that standard number, you'll be required to pay what's commonly, or not commonly, but eloquently known as an alternative compliance fee. So in essence, there's a fee that you'll have to pay to the Maryland Department of the Environment for any greenhouse gases that you're emitting from your site, from your building itself. And the intent of this ultimately is that the intent of this legislation is to get to a point where there's no greenhouse gases, which really ultimately means that buildings are 100% electric in terms of how they use energy on their site, or you have to pay this alternative compliance fee. Now, there are some exemptions to this. It's not every building in the state of Maryland. Historic buildings are not covered by this. K through 12 schools, be they private or public. Yes, sir, Mr. Holland.
I need to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
Considered a historic building.
If
It's considered a historic building.
it has to be on the definition is on the slides. It's designated a historic property under law.
So what is
supports that.
It was like a registrar.
Right.
But I mean, this building could be historic.
Yeah.
Because of what's happened in it or how old it is.
Yeah.
Not this building.
So for any of these exemptions, the way the process works is that if you make a case that you think you're a K through 12 school, or you think you're a historic building, or you think you're a manufacturing building, you have to go through a process of submitting evidence about why you meet that requirement to MDE, and it has to be accepted by MDE. So there's a process that they would take you through to do that. Manufacturing buildings are exempted from this, but there is a little of something of a gray area. If you have a large manufacturing building that's actually making a product, but perhaps you have off-site warehouses that you use for storing raw materials or finished goods that are produced by that factory, the manufacturing building could be exempt, but the storage warehouses likely won't be exempt. They will be covered by this. Agricultural buildings, and then federally owned buildings. So you don't see county-owned government office buildings like the one that we're sitting in here on that list of exemptions,
So what's the
unfortunately.
difference between a federal building and a county building? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, for the environment, right?
Oh, fair.
Federal law preempts Maryland law, but county law doesn't preempt state law. That's the difference.
Yeah, so this stemmed out of that Climate Action Now Act that was passed in 2022, and this became in COMAR before the end of last year, in December of last year. So this is a regulation that's being enforced.
So it's a regulation that didn't have to go in front of the delegation to be passed, or it did? It didn't have to be voted on.
The General Assembly passed it.
They did pass it.
Yeah, that was in 2022, I believe.
Do you have a list of all the people that voted for this?
I don't know that Matt does, but the General Assembly website does.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd have to look that up.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So let's say this government office building alone, right? I mean, to just the data entry has got to be impossible. So let's say that I realize tomorrow morning that we have to do that. What do we do? Where do we even start?
So there are some things that can automate that process. For instance, if we have Delmarva Power is likely the electric provider for this building. So there's an automated process where you can get an electronic transfer from your records as a utility payer into the EPA Portfolio Manager is the system that's going to be used as the benchmarking tool. There's some administrative things you have to do to get that data connection set up, but there is a way to automate that. So yeah, it can be done. It can be done.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, good questions. There are also some within some facilities, you have certain use types that can be excluded from use. So food service facilities, if you have EV charging, outdoor heated pools, if you have lighting in parking lots, you can exclude that energy from the reporting, and required generators that you need for standby power can be excluded. Interesting side story, kind of the way that I got introduced to this requirement in the first place was our company Insight Build, and my wife, the president of Insight Build, who was with me here today, is doing a major renovation project at the Shorebirds Stadium right now, and that renovation project was being funded by the Maryland Stadium Authority, and as a contract requirement for doing this work, Maryland Stadium Authority required that any work that's being performed under this project meet these new requirements. So as a result of that, there's a piece of the scope of work that's happening at the Shorebird Stadium is to remove the gas-fired hot water heaters and replace those with electric water heaters. So that's being done right now.
That's not cheap.
Yeah. But the good news that I have for Mr. Bitters and his team on this list of exemptions is that the portions of his facility that are involved in food service can be carved out of that reporting requirement. And that's really good news, because if you think about the nature of what a commercial kitchen looks like, this is a heavy user of gas, and it's not easy to electrify something like that. So some of these exemptions, are going to be beneficial, I think, to some property owners. So this is, I mentioned earlier in 2030, there's going to be a standard that each building has to meet. That's what's known as an interim standard. The first standard kicks in 2030. It gets a little bit tighter in 2035. And then the real kicker is that by 2040, the standard's reduced to zero. So the expectation is that you would have no greenhouse gas emissions from a building, or you would pay a maximum fee at that point.
This kind of reminds me of the rain tax that they came up with a few years ago. O'Malley had the rain tax, non-pervious surfaces, you were going to have to pay a tax on that.
Right.
Right. And this outdoor heated pool, I don't know many people that have an outdoor heated pool, but I guess somebody in the General Assembly's probably got one. That's why it was excluded.
Joe, you're
Definitely hotels, I'm sure. Hotels, yeah. This just gives you a sense of what the impact is for the state. There's about 9,000 buildings over the entire state of Maryland that MDE estimates are going to meet this requirement. Most of them are warehouses, offices, and retail. And then of those, we have about 200 that are in Wicomico County alone.
So Matt, how would somebody like Walmart, you say retail, they would qualify for this, right? But yet they cook in there.
Yes.
So how do they separate? Do they do it by square footage or,
It's a good question. So if you were lucky enough to have a dedicated gas meter that's just for the kitchen, just for the cooking area, you would not report any of that usage in your report out.
Okay.
If you don't have that, you've got to come up with different ways of estimating it. Maybe you have a sub-meter that's not seen by the utility, but you have a way of monitoring it, or there's some square footage ways you can estimate it as well. But yeah, it becomes a complication that you have to deal with.
I guess the real question is what's going to keep Walmart from going 10 miles up the road into Delaware?
Yeah, or St. John from building a 34,999 square foot building. Yeah, there's going to be people that change their business strategies, no doubt, as a result of
and
this.
And they've just made a major investment. Okay.
Putting people out of business.
So within the county, the Civic Center is going to be a covered structure. The stadium we just mentioned, the Wicomico County Court Building, the Ward Museum that's going to become a county building, and the building, I don't have it listed, but the building that we're sitting in here is going to be a building that has to be included as well.
Our court building should be historic. The courthouse, the old courthouse should be historic.
It should be, yeah.
So that would be marked off.
As long as we can submit that exemption and you meet the exemption requirements, that's right.
But you still have district court that's...
Oh, you got district court.
That's not historic, right?
Yeah.
Right. This will give you a kind of a sense of the fees in 2030 for every ton of greenhouse gas that you emit. It's going to be $230. Going up to, by the time you get to 2040, it gets to be over $280. I did a model for a forum a couple of weeks ago of the worship hall at Oak Ridge Baptist Church, because it's a covered building that meets these requirements. It's about 70,000 square feet. And if they do nothing by 2040, they'll be paying between $18,000 and $25,000 a year. So just to give you a sense of what this compliance fee kind of looks like. So, which ultimately is the intent of this regulation. It's to give a long enough runway, 15 years to get to 2040 roughly, and put a set of compliance payments in place that start to ratchet up higher and higher, so that you can, as a building owner, you can start to make a strategic plan about how you might want to retire aging equipment and upgrade it to be something that is compliant. That's the philosophy behind this. So one of the first things that any building owner needs to be thinking about is to start benchmarking the building. So that's inputting all of the data, creating an entry into the EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and then getting that submitted to MDE. And it's kind of like filing your taxes. The first year is the hardest, and then once you get those systems in place, it'll become fairly automated, I think, for a lot of building owners.
Scariest part about this whole thing is when they see this, they're going to start doing this with homeowners.
Well, 35,000 is still a pretty big building.
Yeah, but they can reduce it, though. I mean, you can always change the law, and they'll say, hey, we've done this with businesses, let's do it with homeowners.
Right.
You know.
Right. So to the extent that I can help people, I see myself as a coach to help your staff make these initial setup of the energy reporting and the portfolio manager, help guide on best practices. There is a requirement every 5 years that you have to have a third party verify the inputs, and that one of the people that can do that is a professional engineer, which I hold that qualification. But ultimately, I want to help people with that long-term planning of like, let's be smart about this. If we have to comply, if we have a building that doesn't meet any of the exemptions, how do we comply in a way that kind of fits with your long-term capital plan? So as you're retiring equipment, we're not just doing an in-kind replacement. We're thinking smart about how to make investments in buildings. And then kind of, this is, we're talking about 2040. 2040 sounds like a long way away. I think the most important thing for people to think about is what's going to happen over the next 6 months or so. I think Chris Bitters broke this microphone too. This deadline of September 1st is going to come up really, really fast. We're already at the start of March now. Utility companies have 90 days to respond. Most utility companies, in our area, Delmarva Power seems to have some expertise because they're part of the bigger Exelon company. They've got a good system in place for doing this report out of data. Chesapeake Utilities is still building their systems right now, and they're working on it. But my estimate is that when you make the request as a building owner, they're going to take 89 of the 90 days to respond back. They're probably going to take a while. So we can't simply wait until August the 29th and decide that we want to start to do this report. It probably needs to start more like in the March-April timeframe, which is right now. But this is kind of a set of roadmap steps that a building owner would need to think about to move forward.
Well, and it's important that you're here today because the September 1st deadline, as you're suggesting, within the next couple of months, we have to have a budget that's going to come out. And I think next week there's a public hearing on the budget. So those wheels need to get started right now.
Right.
How is it even possible for a decision to be made on what those costs will be for this county that's got to establish a fiscal year 26 budget, have it in place by July 1st? Where do you even start?
Yeah. So if we looked at let's look at a different end of the spectrum. Salisbury University, as an example, has been doing this type of benchmarking to get ready for this for probably at least the past 4 to 5 years. So they have 4 to 5 years of every year they've inputted their data. They have a sense of where they're doing well from a building stock standpoint and where they need to make improvements. So they already have a list of prioritized projects that are queued up, and they kind of know what that's going to look like from a capital forecasting standpoint. You don't have to start any compliance measurements until 2030. So there is a little bit of a runway to get maybe one, let's say it's 2025, 2026, we get 2 years of benchmarking under the county's belt, and then you can start to apply that to what your CIP looks like, because then you'll have a sense of where do we need to spend money, because you'll know what the energy data is.
Talking about the costs that are for the initial benchmarking.
Yeah. The cost of the initial benchmarking, it's analogous to what do you think you pay a CPA to file your taxes for? It's more administrative. It's not a lot of money to do that.
Okay. Just curious. Josh?
Just curious, is there an offset that I guess that is allowed for, like, say someone wants to do, they're just getting a new roof on the Civic Center, they put up solar, Is that a part of this, and to what degree, I guess?
It's a great question, and you would think there'd be a huge benefit. But when you, I sit in a lot of seminars, I've asked this question lots of different ways, and the answer ultimately is no. Because this is so myopically, I shouldn't say that word probably, but myopically focused on greenhouse gases emitted from a building. And whether the power that comes in from, that powers the building is from, the now shut down Indian River coal fire plant, or it's coming from an offshore wind project, or it's coming from your on-site solar. Those are all great things, and it helps reduce your electric bill, but it doesn't do anything to help with compliance on this, unfortunately. Yeah.
Other questions?
Great. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate you
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Entertain a motion to adjourn from legislative session to, from open work session to go into closed session. Second? Second. Favor?